It's a bright Thursday morning. Welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. We start from Parliament, where the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry says that the police did nothing wrong when they sent some suspects said to be involved in recent bullion van robberies to a hideout of a criminal gang. The suspects lost their lives in that operation from gun exchange, according to the police. The police came under intense criticism, with some analysts describing the conduct of the police as unprofessional. Responding to an urgent question from ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga, the minister argued that the police were actually surprised that the alleged criminal gang opened fire on them in the first place.
Did not tell the police that where they were sending them, those suspects were armed and allowed to come under fire. Indeed, it is not the case that when suspects are leading the police during investigations that they are given bulletproof bullets, jackets. No, it is not. These were people who were sending the police to their accomplices to lead them to go and they were civilian, because they were not security people. And therefore, the manner in which the investigation was conducted was reasonable. The first surprise was that they got to a cul-de-sac and told them that they should align. And they said, well, where are the people? So we'll lead you there. And they were ahead. So they were surprised by gunfire because they were going to show their civilian accomplices. And therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, the police had done all that was necessary in the anticipated circumstances.
Now, still in Parliament, the minority is threatening to block the introduction of any new bill by the executives should the chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Kwame Ayimadu, continue to delay the passage of the anti-LGBTQI+ bill. According to the minority chief whip Muntaka Mubarak, the chairman of the committee is acting in ways that are deliberately delaying the passage of the bill.
The concern of members about the unnecessary delay. Chairman Ayimadu, if you could listen, Honorable, the unnecessary delay obviously had to be blamed on the chairman. And they were right, they raised it on the floor. The Speaker, when the bill was referred to him, it's unfortunate they have to divulge this private conversation we had. The Speaker, one of the largest bills we had in this House was either the Public Health Bill or the Companies Amendment Act. They were very large. And I showed him, in managing bills that are very controversial, what you do is that you hire a big hall, call all those who have brought the memorandum. You are talking about 178. If you had a hall that could seat 300 people like the DF Annan Hall, cross one, all those who have the amendment, raise your concerns. They raise it. By the time you get to the last floor, you will be done. But you opted to use a vehicle that gave people unfettered time. Meanwhile, you know of the constitutional provision, and I will refer you to Article 1064. Mr. Speaker, and with your permission, I read, a bill introduced in Parliament by or on behalf of the President shall not be delayed for more than 3 months in any committee of the Parliament. In inference, remember, we could not introduce a bill in this House until Professor Akwe, with his magnanimity, worked out to enable members to be able to introduce a bill. So in this sense, it's referring to bill. And for more than 3 months, if you realize that there was going to be delay, the only fair thing that you do as a chair is to come back to this House to tell the House that because of reason 1, 2, 3, we have to have a delay. And the members will then be able to contribute to even your way your procedures, the proceedings are going. We have to serve notice to our colleagues. Since this is the method that the chair of the Constitutional and Legal wants to use to delay that bill was in this House before so many other bills. I can assure you that any other bill you introduce in this House, we shall resist it. If it is to provide water in Aswasi, we will resist it. We will make sure that that bill, as long as it stays there, no any other bill passes through this house. If you try to do that, we shall oppose it because we see that it's deliberate.
Well, still in the capital, Executive Director of the National Service Scheme, Osaya Sibe Entry, has assured National Service personnel that their grievances will be promptly addressed. The personnel for the 2021-2022 service year are demanding the release of their allowances, which have been in arrears for some time now. Speaking to JoyNews on the sidelines of the National Service Scheme User Agency Stakeholders Conference, the Executive Director said preparations are underway to engage stakeholders of the scheme.
Of the National Service Scheme said they are not oblivious of the grievances of personnel. According to the Executive Director, the issues require time to resolve, hence the stakeholder engagement which is underway.
Anywhere you are working, there's a district officer that you are working with. So you forward your challenges to him for it to come to us so that we address it. Your concern is well noted, it will be forwarded to the authorities.
Mr. Entry, on the other hand, believes that employees should express their complaints through the appropriate channels.
Anyone who has challenges should let us know, especially some of them even just loading their e-switch numbers got it wrong.
Let's now turn our attention to the Ashanti region, where Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has revealed that government is almost done with a process that would ensure that newborn babies are registered with Ghana cards. According to him, work has already commenced to make the new arrangement effective this year, with the Ghana Statistical Service providing the Ghana Health Service with 13,000 tablets to support the project. Speaking at the launch of the No Guarantor Student Loan Scheme in Kumasi, he said no one can function without a Ghana card once the integration is done. Ohiminteria has more in the following report.
Government in 2018 launched an agenda to build a database economy with digitalization as a major instrument for economic transformation. Dr. Bawumia says work has already begun to integrate the driver's license, birth and death registry, Ghana Health Services, among others, into the Ghana card system. The idea, he says, is to propel Ghana's entry into the fourth industrial revolution.
One of the things that we are doing, which I'm very excited about, we are linking the births and deaths registry to the Ghana Health Service and to the National Identification Authority. We are about to finish that exercise. But later this year, because we want to make sure, as happens in all the advanced countries, that when you are born, that is when you get your Ghana card number, right from birth. From birth, you take that Ghana card number, go to senior high school, with basic school with it. It will track you all the way to university, right from birth. So we have linked the National Identification Authority with the Ghana Health Service and the Births and Deaths Registry. The Ghana Statistical Service has been so good in this particular project. They've provided the Ghana Health Service with 13,000 tablets. So those tablets are going to be used across all antenatal clinics in Ghana. So we will be tracking pregnant mothers right from pregnancy. We will know that this person, this is the mother, this is the Ghana card number.
According to Dr. Bawumia, the integration will mean the Ghana card will officially become the basis of every economic activity in Ghana. But how soon will it become operational? Dr. Bawumia explains.
This is what happens in advanced countries, so that your Ghana card number is going to be with you from birth until death. And that is how we build the anchor of a data. We are almost complete with this exercise, by the way, and I'm pushing them so that we start it this year. This is not some futuristic matter. We are almost there in terms of all the integration that we are doing. So the point is that the Ghana card, why we are very confident in saying when you use it, you can get your student loan and you don't need a guarantor, because we are building a whole ecosystem around the Ghana card. And there's no way you can function in this country if you don't have that Ghana card. Yeah, that is the bottom line.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Meteorological reporting.
On a rather sad note, a commercial driver who tried to prevent an attack on a young man at Asakori-Mampon in Kumasi has been stabbed to death. 22-year-old Dennis Owusu was stabbed several times at the back, buttocks, and had his head hit with a brick by a group of young men who were chasing a colleague in the area. Uncle of the deceased, Kwabna Amwaku, says his nephew was killed when he tried to prevent the boys from attacking the young man. Mona Lisa Frimpong has been interacting with the family of the deceased and has filed this report.
An eyewitness, Bismarck Odro, who operates a drinking spot in the area, told Love News the target of the attack, known only as Nat, had a confrontation on Sunday with a group of boys off the Kenyasi Road. The group of young men ambushed him on Monday in an attempt to deal with him. He said Nat ran into the deceased, who had returned from work asking for help. In an attempt to reason with them, they stabbed him multiple times.
Sunday, no, around 2:30 to 3 morning, me yes spot was Asakori-Mampon. Me na. Timothy anyone boys no so dey minimum. Into no do am say brown friend say black do am say yes. And am say another na mo na no so ye kwa de ye kwaji ani na boy bi jimi ho no ma me debo ahwehwe ni tirin. And what na tare kwa say black do. One of
the perpetrators told me he had beaten a guy.
Classmate.
Sister of the deceased, Francesca Owusu-Ampong, gave a chilling account of how they killed his brother.
We heard he
was stabbed multiple times. My brother was innocent. Uncle of the deceased, Kwabna Amwaku, says Owusu was rushed to the Menchia Government Hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival.
Boys be by say on person na akontokwa. No was munja na ntokwa de mfaso bi ani so. Ti mo fie na nkola na beka kire me say mo fast no me de hie no nkofo abona akunu. I'm say oh.
I saw a group of boys who had gathered saying they were still waiting to beat my nephew.
Mother of the deceased, Yabwatma, wants police to arrest the perpetrators.
My son was innocent. I want justice to be served.
Police say no arrest has been made so far, but they are investigating. Awuku Malik's report read to you.
Forgetting to turn off your light or other electrical appliances before leaving the house is commonplace. Now, this has the potential to waste energy and sometimes leads to fire outbreaks. Fortunately, engineers at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have come out with K-Switch, an automated street and indoor light switching device which is enabled by SMS. On Thursday, Lab FM's Chrissy Debra speaks with the developer engineer John Kusi, a senior laboratory technician in the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering.
I'm Engineer John Kusi. I'm a senior laboratory technician at Electrical Engineering Department. I'm also an MPhil student for Power Systems Engineering in the same department. The whole idea started during my undergrad when I realized that there was an old lady that anytime it gets to around 8:30 to 9 o'clock, I will see her in darkness. She will be shouting for people to come and turn their lights on. So I realized that there could be a device that could be doing this for them so that such old people can have that access to switch their lights on and off, not necessarily going to the switch. Another thing is that I was also a technician here by then. Sometimes you'll be in the house and they will call you and say, you let your office lights on. Your office AC is on. So you have to drive back to campus to come and switch them off. So sometimes I ask myself, what about if you are in Accra? How are we able to do that? So this brought the idea that if there is a way you can be controlling electrical appliances, bills, lights, fans, and ACs, without necessarily going to that place. And another thing is that I check online and I realize that people are using data, Internet of Things to solve such problems. But here in our country, the internet wasn't at that time handy like you get it. And so, I decided to come out with a different system other than data that we can use it. So I check and realize SMS is cheaper, and sometimes you do mashup and they give you free of it and you don't even use it. So if there is a system that you can just use SMS to control electrical appliances without necessarily using data, that is why I came out with this one, K-switch, KNUS switch. This is a device. It has a GSM connection that allows you to put a normal SIM, GSM SIM too. So this is the SIM. So the SIM is inserted to this side, and only you have the number. So the person who is going to use it will keep the number, the SIM for the number. Then your information will be put on the microcontroller, plus other security controls, so that it will not be open access for everybody. So it will not respond to anybody except those we place on the microcontroller. And we insert the microcontroller sits here. For you. So, okay. So once we insert this there, that means that it's now secured. So it will only respond to the numbers, phone numbers we have allowed it to interact with. So when we send the message into it, the GSM receives the message, and the microcontroller interprets it, and based on that, it switches it on or off the message that you have sent. So once it's connected to the system, or for example, the lights. So now this is controlling the light. Once you do the connection to the lights, if you want to switch it off, then you just send a text message to the number on the SIM. So like you are sending any message to anybody at all, any friend, any number you have saved on your phone. So they send the code 333 and the message side. So you send this. So usually you have to enable the delivery report on your phone, so that if you are not there and you send it, it will send delivered. So that once it gives you a delivery report, then you see delivered. So you know that it has received it, then it's gone off. In this case, you are rushing late and you are not around, then you want your light to be on to tell the thief that they will think you are there. So if you want to turn it on, it doesn't matter where you are, just send 222 to the number. So for instance, I've saved mine K-switch lights. So you send it to that one. So you have to enable the delivery report so that it doesn't matter where. So once it says delivered here, then you know that the system has received it. So once it receives it, it will process it and it will turn it on for you.
Let's now go to the Volta region, where the climate there is expected to witness some improvements in the coming years due to the instrumentality of the implementation of the Save Dai project, the interest group based in the Hohoi municipality with support from the Forest Plantation Fund Board says it has nursed 1 million tree seedlings for planting ahead of the 2022 Green Ghana projects. The tree species, which include Afram, Mahogany, Teak, and Cinderella, are being distributed to assemblies, private and public institutions, interest groups, and schools in the Volta and Oti regions.
The government's Green Ghana project, being implemented by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, seeks to ensure 20 million tree seedlings are planted nationwide this year. In preparation, implementers of the Save Dai project nursed 1 million tree seedlings to support the Green Ghana project. The initiative, which seeks to ensure enough tree seedlings are produced for the Green Ghana project, was in partnership with the Forest Plantation Fund Board. Tree species such as Afram, Mahogany, Teak, and Cinderella, which were raised at the nursery, are being distributed across the Volta and Oti regions. Norbert Agbanyega is the leader of the Save Dai project and the lead supervisor of the nursery.
We raised 1 million seedlings le efi Enyemiabe Nursery Center.
We have raised 1 million 3 seedlings at our nursery center.
Forestry Commission.
Through the instrumentality of the Forestry Plantation Fund Board and the Forestry Commission, we have distributed seedlings to Krachi, Nkwanta, Dambai, Beve, Peki, Ho, and other destinations.
Corporate bodies,
the Bank of Ghana, NAPCO, COCOBOD, Lotto writers and individuals have come for the seedlings.
Organizations, individuals,
the project would not only impact positively on the environment, it is already having an economic impact on the residents. 115 residents have been engaged as casual workers at the nursery and are being paid for their services.
Project Green Ghana Save Dine.
The Green Ghana and Save Dine projects have brought so much joy to us. We are all getting some money as workers to support our families. Some of us are mothers who had no work. We are excited to be part of this project. Norbert lauded the efforts of the workers, the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, its Chief Director, Professor Patrick Agbeshinyale, the Forestry Commission for their support in producing the 1 million 3 seedlings. He implored all and sundry to participate in the Green Ghana project scheduled for Friday, 10th June 2022. Do not say you don't belong to the NPP, so you won't be part of the Green Ghana project. Plant just 1,000 Afram seedlings. After 8 years, request a logging permit to cut the trees. That is when you will realize the economic benefits of the 3 seedlings the NPP government provided for free.
10th June, wherever you might be in this country, try at least and plant a single tree for Mother Ghana.
Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Ohoe.
Thanks for your company. For more news, log on to www.myjoyonline.com. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. The show continues with Benjamin and Bernice. Alrighty, welcome aboard. Time now for the news review. And of course, we're serving, first of all, Bernice Abubey to Lanza before we get into the papers.
Good morning to you, Benjamin, and good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well.
I woke up a bit, I don't know, but it's just one of those things. You wake up sometimes and it's a little something. But here we are doing the do. Yeah. But I like to be mischievous sometimes. Should I be mischievous?
No, please.
Let me be, please. Which color is this?
I don't know. I don't know what.
No, because I took a look at it and I was wondering myself, which color is this? You know, there are so many
colors. Yeah.
I'll take it up as a project. I'll find out which specific color this is. Yeah. But your brooch just does look turquoise.
Yeah, it is turquoise.
Right. Because turquoise, or maybe someone was asking, what is that?
Better.
All right, we get into the papers now, and beyond the papers, there are so many things to talk about. Monkeypox. Have you seen the latest inflation rates and all of that? It's. I mean, I'm just asking myself, where does it stop?
I remember when we did the one for April.
Yeah.
And we said there was a possibility that we were going to see higher numbers, and well, it's reflecting.
So look at the trend. 19 to 23.6. That's an increment of 4.6. Now 27.6. That's an increment of another 4 points.
Yeah. So if you keep going at that rate, it'll be quite difficult for a lot of people in this country. But let's see how it goes. And I am pleased to say that we've been joined again by the former flag bearer for the PPP, Bridget Jobenuku. We'll be delving into the papers. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for your time. Well, I'm told we have a bit of a technical challenge there, but we will definitely raise her on the line, and hopefully technology will be kind to us. But let's delve into the papers, Benjamin. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, we have rains butter Accra roads. Minister deploys mobile maintenance unit to fix problems. It comes along with a photo of a portion of the Tuba Road in the Gas South municipality and the fertilizer road around Teshi Nungwa Estate in Accra. Yesterday, they did how the roads were affected by the rains, the Weja Kaswa Highway.
Right.
And this time around, they're focusing on roads in some parts of the Accra and Tema metropolises. But it's
Which are
interesting.
particularly battered when the rains, hit.
Yep.
Which stretches that? I can see it looks terrible.
This is a portion of the Tuba Road, and we'll be putting up that shortly for you to see. I'm not sure for those who live in that area how your cars are faring. I'm sure this is dealing you some some hard blows on your pockets because you have to keep fixing things. But also on the front page of the Daily Graphic, Ghana Health Service records 5 cases of monkeypox, COVID-19 influenza still lurking, and we will be delving into that issue later in the bulletin. An illegal Chinese miners jailed 15 years. Special supplement on manufacturing, that is in the paper. And on the back page, Afari Military Hospital will be ready in December. Okay, so it's a 500-bed military hospital at Afari in the Truma Nyabija district of the Ashanti region. And contractors there have given an assurance that it will be ready for inauguration by December this year. Good news, isn't it, Benjamin?
It is.
And unfortunately, this story, Momo vendor, 2 others killed in Tamale robbery.
Yeah.
And that was 2 days ago. It was, watching the video alone, sent some shivers down my spine. The sheer bravado with which these criminals do these things makes you wonder, where from the confidence,
Well, there must be something, giving them some pep, a shot in the arm. And of course, we know also that, we can look at so many things.
Yeah.
The police to civilian ratio itself, according to UN standards, we still have some work to do there to get, it's been a while since I checked, but we're still not there yet.
At all.
Then it comes to, community alertness, there are so many factors, the economy, the economic situation and all of that. Usually I issue a disclaimer when I talk about these things. It's not to say that when the economy is turbulent, it means there is justification to engage in these activities. But it definitely does mean that some people will take advantage of such and, engage in such nefarious activity. And you would notice a lot of these mobile money vendors are being targeted,
Exactly.
which is a great cause for worry.
Yeah, Benjamin. There are a couple of stories in the paper that I would just like to draw our attention to. There's this one about Bola Tinubu contesting Nigeria election on the APC ticket, and Nigeria is voting next year.
Oh yeah,
it's getting interesting by the day. What's happening there with regards to their elections, the primaries, and all the things. And all the things that are happening, especially with regards to security and how it will all play out.
The activities of Boko Haram,
exactly.
The Islamic, I don't want to say insurgency because this is not Boko Haram, but like what we saw happen to Deborah, intolerance, religious intolerance and all of that. But people have spoken about Tinubu's age and all of that and you see, for me, that is becoming...
Are you in sync with me? Because that's what I was just going to say.
Because I
70.
feel on the continent, and again, anytime I say this, I am not being ageist, okay? Ageism, no. But I feel, look at our leaders across the continent, really. Well, we're electing people of a certain ilk, and I'm sorry, we also need a lot of young people in there. Look at Emmanuel Macron, when he took over France. How old was he, 36, thereabouts? Look at all of these Scandinavian countries, the women in New Zealand, Finland. All of these countries, they're electing women, they're electing very young people, 30-something, 40, I don't know. But I feel moving on, we also need that bit concerning youthful energy in our leadership. And I always go back to what Mo Ibrahim, the British Sudanese billionaire businessman, once said. And this is on the lighter side. He said, in Africa, we are electing all of these 70-somethings, 80-somethings, and all of that. Where are they taking Africa to? To the grave? You know, so that's just... But we need more vibrancy in there, obviously.
Yep. And you know, he beat the current vice president.
Osibanjo,
who was
beat him,
hoping to be president.
In fact, he placed third.
He placed third, yes.
The V placed third. Then there was another person, and then Tinubu. Well, okay. we wish Nigeria the best.
Yes, we we must be interested in what happens in Nigeria, because when there's a spillover...
Oh, definitely.
You know, Ghana receives... whatever.
The first destination, we hope that never happens, but the first destination is Ghana. Because Nigeria and Ghana are like, you know,
brothers.
siblings.
Yeah. But there's this one that you brought up yesterday, food crisis could last years. And the story is on page 9 of the Daily Graphic. The food crisis government pays since Ukraine was invaded could last years rather than months if decisive action is not taken. That's according to Director General of the World Trade Organization. And you just want to put this in perspective as we experience our own issues with food production here in Ghana. And Mamiesi Thompson on the 6 a.m. news today brought us a story from the Aboglushi market where people have to adjust their grocery list because every time they go, the prices are increasing. And so you knew that you bought a gallon of oil, say, for 300 cedis the last time you visited the markets. This time when you go, it's almost 400 cedis. And so you have to make adjustments to your list, and people aren't really excited. But the warning is that, look, beyond what's happening in your various countries, you should be thinking of the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war. So our Greek ministry and our farmers really need to be doing something to ensure that we don't hit rock bottom when it comes to food.
And one of those stories you did from the Daily Graphic, just a place name that usually gets me. I don't know why, but I smile, or I get, my interest is piqued each time I hear Nwabieja. I would like to get to the root of Nwabieja. Anyway,
let's see what you have.
Let's get into the Business Finder newspaper. Dr. Baumia officially launches no guarantor or no guarantor, depending on how you, for students' loan scheme. Commonwealth Business Forum CBGMD engages British PM. And other stories. Let's get into that first one on page 2. So, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Baumia has officially launched the no guarantor for students' loan policy, which takes effect this academic year. He said the policy would build on government's comprehensive program of expanding educational opportunities for the youth. Effective this school year, all eligible tertiary students can access loans by submitting their Ghana card to the Students' Loan Trust Fund. And this is a critical first step to ensuring cost is not a barrier. I believe that is a good move, especially considering the numbers I am seeing here. And it will go to alleviate the suffering of a number of students who have to fall on this scheme, most definitely.
And talking about that, I just think that it's okay to announce or to just say that for those of us who were able to access student loans, I mean, just pay back. Because sometimes no names are published in the papers because people are defaulting, and it's not too exciting because you're denying others the opportunity you had while you were a student. So
it's also about sometimes how people, you see, it's about a corrupt and broken system. And how sometimes, it's just like with the COCOBOD scheme, you know. In the past, I don't know about what pertains now, but my family, I mean, my grandfather had large swathes of land, cocoa farm and all of that. So at a point, I benefited at the secondary level from a cocoa scholarship. But you would also realize that some people who had absolutely nothing to do with were on some of those schemes. So when you look at it in this sense, if the person, I mean, is just coming thinking, oh, because I'm affiliated to party A or party B and this or that, the person will feel justified to not want to pay after they are done. Those are some of the problems. Give them to those who are actually in need, regardless of political colorations. And then let's have mechanisms in place so that once the person is done, they'll pay. But here's one last angle. There are people as well
They are done, all right, but they've not even landed a job. 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. How do you expect them to pay?
True. That's true. You're right.
Anyway, so just a quick one. 9.6% of applicants secured guarantors in 2019-2020. And for those who could not find them in 2018-2019, that was 42% could not find, some of these people to stand in for them. So that's the story. But also here, what we've been talking about, inflation inches to 27.6%. And in the first quarter of 2022, the average inflation was 16.3% relative to 10.2% recorded for the same period in 2021. Again, food prices and others driving inflation upward and upward. There's a story, Bernice, on page 4 of the paper, source raw materials locally. President tells multinational companies. And he made the call yesterday in Tema when he commissioned a 175 million Ghana cedi state-of-the-art plant belonging to Nestle Ghana Limited to manufacture infant cereal for the domestic market, thus expanding the factory's capacity to some 6,000 metric tons. My only thinking here is a call. How many times have we not made this call? So, I don't know, Mr. President, this call would likely amount to nothing because we don't have any real regulation or law. Other jurisdictions are definitive. You must source X% at least from here. So calls will not really do us justice. Again, will allow these MNCs to come into the country and have a field day. So we need more than a call to get this running. There's a final story I wanted to look at very quickly. Newmont sells 3,500 ounces of gold to the Bank of Ghana. The central bank told us they wanted to, have their reserves in gold and all of that. So Newmont Ghana has announced it has successfully sold some 3,500 ounces of gold to the Bank of Ghana under the central bank's domestic gold purchasing program launched in June 2021. So some interesting stories there from the business fight.
Yep, and I've got the Daily Guide and about the president making that call. He also urged or charged industries to exploit the after that particular program. And MPs in dogfight over gay bill. You had that discussion yesterday, and well, we're being told, the committee says it is not dragging its feet, it's actually working. So let me just bring you details of that story on page 3, written by Enes Kofi-Edu from Parliament. Discussions on the perceived delay of the work of the anti-LGBTQ bill by the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs deteriorated into a dogfight in Parliament yesterday amidst shouted marches. The promotion of proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021 seeks to criminalize homosexuality and its allied sexual orientations and make advocating for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer people a crime in the country. Currently, the committee is holding a public hearing to give individuals and organizations that have submitted memoranda on the bill the opportunity to justify their submissions and offer further explanation on their views, and this has delayed the process. So we are told that lawmakers from the NDC saw this as an opportunity to make political capital. I'm wondering, I don't know how you feel about it, but the journalist thinks that the NDC made political capital out of this by attacking the committee's chairman, who is an NPP MP, and the government on deliberately delaying the process to deny the draft legislation from becoming law. Minority Chief Whip Mohamed Mubarak Buntaka threatened to block the passage of government bills in the House if the chairman continuously used, quote, tortoise method, unquote, to deal with the bill at the committee level. There's more on this on page 3 of the Daily Guide, but there are other stories captured on the front page. Ghana records first monkeypox cases. And Benjamin, remember when we're having that conversation with Liz about the COVID-19 and the fact that we were recording more cases now? I said, speaking to scientists, they'd always maintained that the cycle or the nature or the behavior of the virus was that what you see playing out in the West would likely, I don't know if it is a thing of we paying close attention once the West reports it, or it is a true reflection that once they report it, we are likely, because monkeypox is from here.
Technically,
we're told,
that hasn't, because usually they tend to,
Africa.
Ebola this and all of that. Sometimes it's not, when you trace its origins, yes, the 9-year-old who first got it was from, I think, the former Zaire. But over the years, we've had outbreaks in the West, the United States and all of that. And it's here now. But if you look at the 5, I think it's only one that is indigenous to us. They've been brought in, one person from the United States and all that. So this whole bit, the back and forth really doesn't matter. It's about eradicating it wherever. Because once it's in even a single country, it means there's a possibility of someone who has left having it. And look at how transmissible it also is, which is why the Director General of the Ghana Health Service has said that maybe we should really consider going back to mask wearing, using sanitizers more, cleaning surfaces and all of that, because kind of close to COVID-19, monkeypox in terms of transmissibility is also, very contagious.
Yep. And he's not the only one. We've had scientists from WACPIP. They're actually suggesting that we go back to the protocols if we can. But also on the front page of the Daily Guide, support government to green Ghana. We know tomorrow is Green Ghana Day. It's there. Let's go planting. I would like to know how well the trees we planted last year are faring. I think it's important
I've said this time
while we progress to take stock of our efforts. And so we'll try and see if the minister can give us those updates once we go planting tomorrow. And also this one, Benjamin, it's interesting. Sack lazy public sector workers. Let me bring details of that story on page 3. Chief Executive Officer for Public Sector Reforms, Thomas Kusi-Boafo, says between 10% and 15% of public sector workers must go home. Well, his comment comes at the back of recent statement made by Professor Enim on the renewal of termination of contracts of public sector workers based on performance.
Right.
Benjamin. But even before we do that, Mr. Kusi-Boafo thinks that 10 to 15% of public sector workers must go home.
Based on what?
Well, according to him, there are some people who are sacrificing because they are not paid that much. Others also do not have the necessary tools and equipment. They need to work, and in other circumstances, supervision is low. He talks about the educational sector where some teachers enroll their children in private schools because it's believed they are better than the former. He says, well, basically, some of these public sector workers are not meeting the standards. He says that government is not happy about the current state of some of the sectors, but is unable to terminate contracts of some unproductive workers because people will end up politicizing and blaming the government for taking their jobs. So back to the big question. How do you determine that someone is not being productive? And I think that's what Professor Enim was driving at. There should be some form of assessment. But I'd want to believe that as is done in many private companies, at the end of every year, you want to appraise your workers, right? Does that happen in the government sector?
Well, from the experience we have, the public sector is as sloppy as it gets. And it's no wonder that we have so many, so many loopholes that people exploit, both financially and otherwise. We know there are these slippages. If, as a country, we wanted to plug these holes, we would have done so. But it works to the benefit of the boys and girls who usually get in there when there's one party or the other in power. So it's left to us, really. We should be asking ourselves, what is it that the private entities get right when it comes to this discussion? What are the mechanisms they put in place? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And again, like I said the other day, which I think it was Professor Ba Ajman also, totally subscribed to. How come Ghanaians go to other jurisdictions and they are the hardest workers, but here they get away with so much? It's because the systems allow it. And once you allow it, people will. In other places, other jurisdictions, if there were slippages in terms of tax, people would exploit it. In the UK and France, people would take advantage of it. It's the same human beings here. Once there are, slippages or room to maneuver, people will take it.
Or maybe the people leaving our shores are, well, maybe the hardworking ones who leave, a fraction of the hardworking ones, because I know there are a lot of hardworking Ghanaians in the country. But Benjamin, do you have anything else?
Yes, but if you have stories, wrap up with them before I come in.
Okay, so still in the Daily Guide, Russia backs Ukraine grain exports but wants sanctions off. It's funny, isn't it, that you're at war with Ukraine, yet you are like, okay, let's create a safe maritime corridor so that Ukraine can export.
They've locked out Ukraine.
Yeah, so that Ukraine can export grains to the world market, so that we can avert this food crisis we are all afraid of, but we are still continuing with our fight.
Well, and they are talking about, the lifting of sanctions as well. All right, let's do the custodian newspaper in the next few minutes. Green Ghana project not partisan, that's according to the lands minister. And pictured there, Samuel A. Jinapo. This is another thing. I don't know how we're going to execute it, honestly, but if we moved away from, I feel one thing, if we started giving credit to erstwhile regimes, that's something that I don't get. It's so petty in our politics. And we don't want to give credit that Kufuor did this, Rawlings did that, and I'm continuing. Atta Mills did this, and I'm continuing. Mahama did this, and I'm continuing. You only give credit
to a government of your party.
Exactly. It makes no sense, because now you're saying, oh, it's not a partisan project, it's a Ghana project. So, but some people will definitely look at it through partisan lenses, because there's usually, and I'm not saying in this instance there is, but with such projects, there's usually chop-chop, there's sidelining, and it has a partisan feel. You attend some of these events, you will see that oftentimes it's a certain party predominant. Yes, I know one party is in power, but once we have these environments, we'll have many projects like this one, which people will see, oh, this one is just NPC, this one is just NPP. And that is why we keep losing. So beyond the call, what else do we do?
I really appreciate your submission. So I was at the presser to announce the launch of this event last year, and it's a 5-year plan, okay? And on the Green Ghana Day, we had President Akufo-Addo plant a commemorative tree at the Jubilee House. So talking about giving it a nationalistic dimension or perspective, how about get former President Mahama? How about get,
I was just about to suggest
other personalities.
The former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. How about when you're doing this, you get a person on board?
So that we all know, and also, yes, I know that when it comes to giving accounts, people want to take credit for some of these things at the MPP. It's just the nature of our politics, and so it makes everybody wants to sit back, because if I help you to achieve it, it's going to your credit, and so it's going to affect me and my chances of coming to power next time. So there's just this very polarized system that doesn't help us move forward. But like I said, tomorrow is Green Ghana Day. There will be seedlings at various forestry commission offices across the country. Private entities are also encouraged to pick up seedlings. Last year, we had a couple of seedlings here and people went to plant. Please, the seedlings are not for sale. So if anybody is selling them to you, please tell them that they aren't doing the right thing, and get to any forestry commission office and pick up the seedlings. And there's Green Ghana. We are encouraged to, there are allocated places, Benjamin, spots where people can plant, but you also
pick up points.
Yeah, not only that, but planting areas in various communities. Our colleagues in Kumasi did that. They were allocated a piece of land where they joined other people to plant, but they also encourage to plant in your homes. If you have a parcel of land that is fallow, just plant and let's help Green Ghana.
I'll do 2 quick international stories, but before that, let me do some local sports. And 11 Wonders come from behind to beat Hearts of Oak by 2 goals to 1.
Hearts of Oak.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening to my Hearts of Oak.
And this was in the outstanding match day 30 encounter of the Ghana Premier League season. 11 Wonders performing wonders. Maybe not. I mean, when you look at the Hearts of Oak team, maybe not too many wonders, but Obiniyum. Anyway. And my producer, and I suspect my director as well, and Bernice Abuvedu-Lanza. You are a fan of How to Be.
I am a diehard.
The bones are rotting.
No, they aren't. We never say die.
Yeah, that's what you always say.
No, we never.
It's like, you know, that they say the man
I
will be
need
shouting.
Mama V now. I need Mama V. Mama V, where are you?
Oh, I dealt with her, you know, on this issue way back. Kenyan mothers choose between work and their babies. I found this rather interesting because it pertains here as well. And the 25-year-old Kenyan returned to a job 3 months. There's a woman here after giving birth, and as a result was unable to breastfeed her baby girl for the recommended 6 months. She's a trained nutritionist, and she says she has no choice as her family needed the money. It just got me thinking about our own dispensation and what we do here when it comes to...
You've got me thinking. It's hard.
Breastfeeding mothers,
it's
lactating.
Hard. And, it's hard. It's hard. And I think the headline captures it rightly. I mean, because you have to make a choice. For many women, like for her, she would rather deny her child exclusive breastfeeding, which is highly recommended, and go to work because she needs the money, you know. But in other progressive societies, they are beginning to, in fact, they have extended the 3 months.
Some Scandinavian countries are even, opting for some paternity leave.
Yes, yes.
You know, to ensure that the father is also available to the child and can also assist in other ways. But when you look at our economy, and when I speak of our economy, I'm not talking about what it is now. But when you look broadly at the state of the structure of our system, it will take quite a bit to get some of these.
And there are so many questions about even career progression for women who step out of work and go have their babies and they're away for 3 months, or even you're advocating 4 or 6 months. You know, when they come back, their male colleagues, like there's no, even in the workplace, there's no structure available to support women, okay? And I'm not saying this because I think women should be given some form of special treatment, but we must make some of these things available to encourage career progression. Because you can imagine if a woman is having 3 or 4 babies, maybe 2-3 year intervals, compare that to a gentleman in the same office. You get what I'm trying to say. So by the time she goes and comes, the guy's gone way ahead of
miles ahead.
Yeah.
A final story: Zimbabwean human toes buyer arrested. Now, I don't know what it is with us because you thought it was concocted.
It was fake news.
No, it isn't.
I
mean, we've moved from, is it the Congo with albinos, other parts of Africa, you know, hunting down albinos and using their body parts for this and that. Now, a 40-year-old Harare man has been charged with criminal nuisance after he claimed on social media that he was an agent for a syndicate harvesting human body parts. David Kaseke, 40, a cell phone dealer who operates at Zymex Mall in the capital, appeared before a magistrate's court, or Minal Narotam, yesterday. The complainant is the state, and there are allegations that follow, but I don't get it. And supposedly, the accused went on to narrate that a small toe attracted 25... You know what? Let me just leave the story there. It's sometimes I just get...
You know what, I was just reminded of the story in the Bible at a time when Israel was struggling a lot with its economy and food, before the prophet said, tomorrow by this time, you know, where it was so dire that women were even
there'll be an overflow of flour, oil, and people didn't believe.
But because I'm wondering if this is an issue of people really needing money and say, look, I can do away with one toe and get money, or it's just an issue of greed. We don't know, but human beings, we never cease to outdo ourselves. You see, we are always outdoing ourselves in many spheres.
Some people say nowadays that the devil himself sometimes looks at our actions and he goes like, hey. You'll be shocked.
You know, there's a skit by a Nigerian guy where you have an agent of God and an agent of the devil, and when there's a temptation, he'll tell you, oh, don't say this, then the devil says, say it, and then the human being says something worse than the devil, suggested, and the devil goes like, hey, what's happening here?
The people have advanced more than I have.
Apologies, we couldn't have Bridget Chukwinuku, former flag bearer of the PPP, here with us due to some technical issues. Hopefully, she'll be able to join us another time, Benjamin, but we'll be quickly bringing you sports.
And maybe before sports, water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect size for every occasion. 330 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Guess who? I'm one of those. We have also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. Isn't that heartwarming? It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. And on that note, well, let's talk money matters.
Do you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Yes, it is. Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and creative arts, horticulture and medicinal plants does not need to pay an income tax on these activities for their first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in businesses that enjoy an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. Accra and Tema 15%, other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions 12.5%, outside other regional capitals 10%, and the 3 northern regions 5%. For further clarity and information, do contact your nearest GRA office. Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness and service. Benjamin. And
on that note, well, we veer right into sports up next on the AM show. Do stay. Welcome back on the AM show. So we get into our big stories, and this morning we're reviewing what the NCC has been telling us. They are conducting a survey, research, and what it's pointing to as of now is that the people of Ghana want the executive, the president, to have fewer powers. We'll be getting into Article 70 of the 1992 Constitution and what it says about the wide powers of government. But even before we do that, would also come here and find out what Article 5 of our Constitution says, and then lay the foundation for the conversation. Now, the 1992 Constitution, Article 5, stipulates, subject to the provisions of this article, the president may, by constitutional instrument, look at the powers, create a new region, like we have seen in recent times, alter the boundaries of a region, or C, provide for the merger of 2 or more regions. And we've seen that in the regional restructuring that has happened in recent times. That is Article 5. But there's more that we shall be looking at, talking about the powers of the executive, the powers of the president. So we'll be getting to that one shortly. In the interim, let me introduce the guests we have joining us this morning. Professor Ransford Jampo, political scientist at the University of Ghana. He'll be joining us shortly. We also have Fred Ejakon Odro, a local government analyst, and Guildfred Esiama, research fellow with the CDD. So I shall start with Guildfred Esiama. In fact, the guests who have joined the conversation, I just want to know your initial premise on this entire development. We've had research paper upon research paper talking about this all-important matter. The CDD is telling us basically that people feel, ordinary Ghanaians feel, the executive is too powerful, aka the president, and that too, there is also the component of the legislative body providing the ministers and deputy ministers, and that is also becoming a problem. What is your initial reaction to that, Godfred Isiama? Do we have Godfred? Maybe you could unmute for me, Godfred.
Thank you. So the issue about the enormous powers that the Constitution gives to the President of Ghana has been a subject of discussion over the past decade. I think it was even before the 2010 Constitutional Review, and continues to dominate national discussions. And anytime that the issue comes up, I think CDD Ghana also did a survey at the time that the constitutional, we were doing the, we wanted to revise the constitution. Constitutional Review Commission was doing its work, and it became clear that majority of Ghanaians think that the president has too much powers in relation to what the president is supposed to do. Basically, the executive and the president are supposed to formulate and implement policies. So we need to be thinking about how much powers do they need to be able to carry out these functions. Right. And the powers that they are given in the constitution, including appointment of heads of independent commissions like Electoral Commission, like Auditor General, are they really, really relevant to the functioning of the presidency? So I think that is one thing that I want to touch on.
Right.
Again, on the issue about members of parliament being part of the executive, it's also one issue that Ghanaians strongly oppose. It undermines the independence of parliament. It just gives enormous advantage of the executive over the president. One, you have majority of ministers being appointed from within parliament, which means that once the president, who also has the same powers to determine how many ministries is established, he can decide how many ministries he wants to be established, expand the numbers of ministers he wants to appoint. And the moment he does that, it means more people will be drawn from parliament. And even in addition to this, what is also most important to consider is the fact that you have most members of parliament who are serving as board members of state institutions. So basically, you can be assured that if you're a member of parliament and you are in good terms with the executive, especially the ruling party, you're a member of the ruling party, right, you are definitely going to be employed in the executive.
Interesting premise that you said, because that also brings into the picture the whole bit about meritocracy and people getting into these positions. But let's quickly wrap with this bit here, checking out some other details right before we continue, Godfred. So hold for me. Now, continuing on Article 31, the president, of course, we're talking about the executive here, may, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, by proclamation published in the Gazette, declare that a state of emergency exists in Ghana or in any part of Ghana for the purpose of the provisions of this constitution, which you would find in other countries as well, a state of urgency or emergency. But notwithstanding any other provision of this article, where a proclamation is published under Clause 1 of this article, the President shall place immediately before Parliament the facts and circumstances leading to the declaration of the state of emergency. Again, when you go to Article 44, also crucial in this discussion, there shall be an electoral commission which shall consist of A, chairman, 2 deputy chairmen, that is B, and C, 4 other members. The members of the commission shall be appointed by the president under Article 70 of this constitution. And this also brings to mind another thorny area, which many a time has become problematic, because then you have a president basically setting up the electoral commission. And this is something that many people have said shouldn't be the case, and that there should be some other body or bodies, maybe independent, coming through with this. We also take a look at Article 57. And there shall be a president of the Republic of Ghana, who shall be the head of state and head of government, and commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. The president shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana, and in descending order, the vice president, the speaker of parliament, and the chief justice shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana. So, of course, you see the president also fully in command in terms of the powers of the state, the armed forces in this regard. We also take a look, at a point we'll take a look at Article 70, but let's jump to Article 72. The president may, acting in consultation with the Council of State, A, grant to a person convicted of an offense a pardon, either free or subject to lawful conditions, the prerogative of mercy. B, granted to a person a respite, either indefinite or for a specified period from the execution of punishment imposed on him for an offense. Or C, substitute a less severe form of punishment for a punishment imposed on a person for an offense. Or the cabinet, this is 77, the cabinet shall be summoned by the president, who shall preside at all its meetings, and in the absence of the president, the vice president shall preside. The cabinet shall regulate the procedure at its meetings. So when you look at all of this, they all point to the fact that we have a wide scope that the president, the executive, fits into the roles they play, from appointments to selections to constituting this and that. That is a conversation we're having. And on the back of all of these, there are quite a number of matters to digest. So, Guildford, looking at all of these powers of the president and looking at what the NCCE says before I take my seat, is it a fair reflection when the NCCE says, per this research that it is conducting, most of the people it is interacting with are saying our executive is too powerful? Is it reflective?
Very reflective. And as I said earlier, this has come up over and over and over again.
Right.
I mean, I think you only touched on the initial bit, but if you look at even the appointment powers of the president, it's too wide. It's too wide. It's just too much. I mean, the president appoints almost every important person in this country. And as I said, the key issue that we must consider is, are these powers necessary for the core function of the executive, which is formulation and implementation of policies? Beside that, I think some of the powers that we have bestowed on the president actually undermines accountability and transparency in the functions of the executive. So it's about time we considered revising some of the powers that we have given to the president. I mean, right. Look, Public Services Commission, Lands Commission, SHRAJ, NCC, Auditor General. So why do we need a president to appoint the Auditor General?
Right.
How does the independent appointment processes of the Auditor General affect the function of the executive? And I think that is one key question that we must ask ourselves when we are interrogating the appointment powers of the president in this country. I think one key issue that has also come up is about the Article 71 holders and the fact that at the end of every 4 years, the president has to establish a committee, right, to determine their salaries and emoluments. These are issues that Ghanaians have said that they think they are too much for the president. He needs to focus on his core functions and other things. We also need independent processes of selecting these people. Let me add briefly that there are some safeguards in the Constitution to limit the powers of the president. And so you will see that the Constitution will say the president should do this in consultation with the Council of State, or some of the appointments should pass through Parliament. But you and I are witnesses to the fact that these things have not worked the way we expected.
Let me bring in Fred Ejakun Odro, local government analyst. For you, looking at this discussion where we're talking about the wide, and as some would put it, the excessive powers of the executive, is it the right time, now that we have this latest report from the NCCE, is it the right time to take a really critical look at these articles of our Constitution, which would also imply then that we really ought to be tweaking the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, at least in this regard?
I do think there's a need to have a discussion about this. Let me take us back to the work of the Constitutional Review Commission around 2011, 2012. And they made a lot of recommendations that we should have looked at, and we failed to do it. Even in recent memory, there's been an attempt by the sitting president in 2019 to review portions of the Constitution relative to local governance. And again, we couldn't go through with the process. My first instinct, yes, we need to review portions of the Constitution. But then we have to hasten slowly in all this debate, because this Constitution is the most enduring Constitution since our independence. And in as much as it may not be due to just because of the Constitution, we should not also delimit the fact that there has been certain provisions within this Constitution that has helped us hold on to this so-called fourth Republican system we are operating. So in view of that, I would say we have to have a thorough discussion about everything to do with the Constitution before we make wholesale changes. But I do admit to the challenges.
You know, Mr. Odro, a quick one. So you talk about the fact that maybe we ought to take a close look at the entirety of the 1992 Constitution before we do this. The problem there is that we've seen what happened in 2010 when the Presidential Commission was set up to basically look at areas of the 1992 Constitution we could do away with. That document is gathering dust, a very thorough report by the Commission. So should we not then be looking at doing exactly what I suggested? Look at problematic areas which are relevant at any point in time and deal with them on a national level, go through the processes, rather than wait for a full-scale review of the 1992 Constitution, which one may not see the light of day anytime soon. And of course, there's also the element of time.
See, this whole discussion is being fueled also by ideological differences. If you go back to, I still want us to look at the review that was done in 2012.
Right.
It was a thorough work done. It's a very good work that was done. All the discussions we are holding today, most of them were part of that. Of course, there are certain aspects that I believe were watered down in the report. But by and large, my point is that there is a historical precedence to this Constitution we have.
Right.
What led to the instabilities that we've experienced until this Constitution? We can't hold a discussion without having all those issues in place. I am very much unhappy with the level to which the executive controls Parliament, especially the majority side of Parliament. However, there's a history to it. We can go back to 1980, there about 79, 80 under President Lehman, where we had a government having virtually a minority in Parliament, and then the budget
and
of the government.
the budget under Lehman, right?
So these are things that can lead to instability in the system. So yes, I do agree. We need to have a review of the hold of the executive on the Parliament, but then we must be cautious never to jeopardize the stability of the democracy we have. That is why I believe that.
Just to chip in again, I'll be interjecting like this from time to time so we can look at all the angles. So you're suggesting that if we adopt a piecemeal approach to dealing with the relevant aspects, because it is not every aspect of the Constitution we have to tweak. So the relevant aspects that over time, it's been 3 decades, just about 3 decades since the 1992 Constitution, which came into force somewhere in 1993. And you're saying that a piecemeal approach wouldn't work. It could create instability. Is that what you're saying?
No, not necessarily. I'm talking about certain key aspects of the Constitution. I mean, we are talking about the role of, I mean, the president, for instance, having a majority of his ministers from Parliament. This provision, we need to have a thorough discussion about this before we agree or disagree to review it. Because it was put there for a purpose. And this purpose, I believe, goes to the core of the stability we've had over the period. So in trying to tweak that, let me state, I believe in wholesale review. And we should do it once and for all, especially if you can build consensus. Because the challenge with reviewing this constitution is also partly to do with our inability to have a national consensus.
Right.
Some people have the view that this is our baby, we created it, there's no way we'll allow anybody to touch it. Some people have a view that this was based on an ideological stance, so we must change it at all costs. I mean, there's a school of thought that believe that the Constitution was created purposely for Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, who was transitioning from a military rule to a civilian rule. So within the context of our history at that time, it was necessary to create a vehicle that will allow him to transit smoothly. Because he's no longer in power, and let me admit, he's gone to glory, it is time to review. Yes, that may be true. But my caution at every stage is we should not do anything to jeopardize the stability of the country. That is my first caution. I'm not saying I'm against any review. I'm all in support of quite a number of reviews. If you were to ask me within the local governance sphere, there is a gamut of reforms we need to have, and the Constitution is restricting.
Like which ones? And I have an inkling what you could be, pointing to. But in the local, since we've gone there, let's just do that. So which one specifically?
The easier one you think of is the election of the MMDCs. That is part of it. But let me even give the election of presiding members. There's a constitutional provision which says that to even re-elect presiding members, you need 2/3 of the total membership of the assembly. I mean, for me, it is a ridiculous provision. That makes it so difficult to elect a presiding member who is so critical for the effective functioning of the assembly. These are just one of the things that I think we need to look at. So there are so many things that we have to sit down, agree as a people. I mean, particularly, I'm so much interested in consensus building.
Right.
Because if you do anything without building consensus, it will fall flat in the face before we start.
How do we build this consensus?
Well, I mean,
what are your suggestions in arriving at that? Because I pose that question from the fact that we not only have a very polarized political system, not just talking about the political parties, but the adherents of the various political parties. So how exactly do we go about that?
Well, I think one of the things I start with is, we've had this constitution since 1992, so we are talking about 30 years. Within the last 30 years, let us ask ourselves as a people, have we reaped the expected benefits we were hoping to get out of this constitution? If we are failing to do that, I think the best thing we have to do as a people is to sit back and say, look, this has not worked as we wanted. And we have an opportunity to come together as a people to fix this. Right. So let us put aside our differences. Let us also be, you see, consensus building comes with compromises. You may not get everything you want, but in the spirit of give and take, you accept certain things and you take certain things. If we don't start from that, and the way we position ourselves as groups, as individuals, as ideological blocks, these are the key things that affect our ability to build consensus.
Let me come to Guildford, and let me just walk you through some of what we have subscribed to as a country when it comes to the powers of the president. I walked you through some of those, and you're fully aware of them per our constitution. But when you look at Article 70, which is crucial to the conversation we're having, appointments by the president, One says the president shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint A, the Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice and his deputies, B, the Auditor General, C, the District Assembly's Common Fund Administrator, D, the Chairman and other members of the, and it follows, I, the Public Services Commission, II, the Lands Commission, III, the governing bodies of public corporations, IV, a National Council for Higher Education, howsoever described, and E, the holders of such other offices as may be prescribed by this Constitution or by any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution. 2, the President shall, acting on the advice of the Council of State, appoint the Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and like I mentioned earlier, other members of the Electoral Commission. Just look at the scope. We've not even spoken about state-owned enterprises and other bodies that, for which the CEOs and others would be appointed by the President. Just look at the scope. From our elections to our auditing structures as a state, to the management of the common fund at the district assembly level, to the chairmanship or leadership of all of these institutions. That is what the 1992 Constitution bequeathed to us. But some analysts would suggest that the 1992 Constitution, those who put it together, the framers, did not envisage that we would have a two-party system like we do now, where two parties, the NDC and the MPP, have a stranglehold on our democracy, so to speak. How then do we deal with this situation? Mr. Jaco Odro says, maybe we don't need a piecemeal approach. Are you in agreement with that?
Well, I think, yes, we need to review our constitution. There are certain recommendations by the Constitutional Review Commission which have been contested. So those ones are there. Maybe we need to have a critical look at those recommendations and also re-examine our constitution again. The powers, as we've stated over and over again, the executive doesn't need all those powers. The president doesn't need all those powers to be able to perform his function. Why should you be the one appointing the Electoral Commission? What's the interest of the president? Because the Electoral Commission transcends beyond one administration and their functions are clear. For the sake of their independence and even perceived independence, Auditor General, institutions that are supposed to hold the executive accountable. Why do we put all these persons, under a form of control of the executive? So I think it's about time we took a critical look at the powers that we have given to presidents under the Fourth Republic. And it may be true, as you have stated, that they never anticipated that we're going to be locked in this two-party regime where you have a ruling party and an opposition party. So that may have informed why maybe they gave certain powers, thinking that if we're having more political parties and even coalitions in forming government, then the powers will be shared. We have been governing our state-owned enterprises in a way that incur cost. If you look at a report, we spend billions of cedis every year feeding into some of these state-owned enterprises, and at the end of the day, they run at a loss. And it's been happening over and over and over again, all because we have given all the powers to the executive who are interested in their regime survival, so they easily appoint party loyalists to occupy these positions, some of who wouldn't be employed if the state-owned enterprise were being managed by private persons because they don't have the expertise. Look at the constitution or the way we constitute our boards and the things that they do. If you look at the Auditor General's report, you really question whether these boards are really performing their functions and what significant role that they are playing in the managing of these agencies and these enterprises. So, I think we probably will be stretching the argument, but the point is that it is about time the president himself should realize that these functions, these powers that we have given to him, he may not be able to, supervise the people that they appoint. Look at local government, and including 30% of elected members of the assembly to be appointed by the president. Does the president have time to do that? And these people, their functions are related to the people at the ground. So why do you give all these powers to the president? How does he even supervise? And
but when
it may interest you.
Right. Just go ahead with that point. I have a follow-up question, but just go ahead.
If it may interest you, these appointments are not done by the president. They are done by the political party executives at the local level, and they do what pleases them, even though we even have strict guidelines as to people to be appointed to be part of the assembly. Don't follow it.
So my quick interjection had to do with this. You say the president should realize it, but we've had presidents in this Fourth Republic, all of them, and it is not that they've not realized it, but none of them has been willing to shed the powers of the executive. They have all clung to it, so they're appointing the IGP and practically everybody. And we can see clearly, even as this latest report evinces, that it's not working. So the realization and acting on it are two very different things. What do you think to be the way forward?
Well, unfortunately, we may have to go the legal way, as stated. In some jurisdictions in the US, it's not everything that is written, in the laws of the country. Some are developed through conventions, but unfortunately, we don't have that side of history where conventionally we adopt and practice good governance and system that enhance accountability in our political sphere. So it is unfortunate that everything has to be marked by law. You wish that at a point people will realize that some of the functions and responsibilities that they are given are just too much for them to exercise, or too much for them to even play effective supervisory role over the people that they appoint. So I think we just have to go by way of law instead of going by convention.
And so the law, but there are processes to be triggered. But let me come to Fred on this beat. So we also know that this has created a system where meritocracy has suffered. And when you have to fill so many positions, and of course when there are your party members breathing down your neck, something must be done. For you, how has this impacted the winner-takes-all conversation?
It is terrible. Let us look at when there's changing government, especially from one party to the other. People seize toilets. Public toilets.
Right.
We've had people going to lock up government offices. NADMO offices. So many of these things are happening because people have the sense of entitlement. You see, for some of us, we believe that this whole challenge with going into election, and then we will have all these peace messages around us because people feel we're going into election. It's virtually an issue of do or die. If your party does not win, you don't have any opportunity of being in government or being a part of the system. So it is very important that we go ahead attempting to, dismantle this issue of winner takes all mentality. But let me correct one point that you made earlier, that no president has made any attempt to change some of these things. Let's go back to President Mills. He believed so much in the review of the Constitution that he set up a commission, which has given us a report that, in as much as, if you ask me personally, there may be aspects I would say, I wish this were like that or like or the other. But by and large, it is a very good report we can work with. Then, even in recent times, President Kufuor attempted a review of the Constitution to enable us elect our own chief executives. But his view was that it should be done on partisan lines.
Exactly the point.
This was the bone of contention. However, if we had succeeded in doing that, we could have had a lot more participation from all the political groupings in the country in the governance process. Because if at the local level, you have a different political party managing different districts, that would have been an inclusive system that we were going to practice, but we couldn't carry this through because of lack of consensus again. So
Right.
I think that there's a will along the line. However, we ourselves have not agreed on what we want. We may talk about...
When you say we ourselves, what exactly do you mean? And maybe just a bit of an addition to the point you made. I did not say that nothing had been done in terms of reviewing the Constitution generally. In fact, I had cited the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission. What I made mention of was the fact that when it comes specifically to what some people feel to be the overweening, overbearing powers of the executive, the president, none of them has made a commitment or showed any real faith, good faith, in terms of shedding those powers, not a general review of the Constitution.
Okay. Well, I do accept that point, indeed. But my key issue here is, if we ourselves don't know what we want as a people, there is no way we can get anything done. I mean, there's so many things we need to look at. One, even the tenure of officers who are appointed. For how long should they be in power?
Right.
I mean, if we've had a case that you can appoint a 40-year-old to be the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, and that person is going to be there for how many electoral rounds? So this could be a strategic move by any president who has the power to appoint an Electoral Commission chairperson.
Right.
I mean, look at the capping, the judges. How many judges, Supreme Court judges do we need in this country? These are all part of the issues we must discuss and agree as a people that we are going to change these things. Otherwise, we keep on talking about the need for the reforms. We will never come to specific point that you say, this is the way we are.
Right. Quick one. So that is exactly where we find ourselves now. I mean, like I said, there have been research papers without number touching on this specific subject. I am looking at one, for example, from Professor Ransford Jampo of the Political Science Department. These things have been done even before the year 2000. After the year 2000, a lot of these research papers came to the fore as well, as early as 2006, 7, 2010, 2013. There have been a plethora of them. But when you speak about the people and getting involved so that we can bring about change, that's exactly where we find ourselves now with this latest NCCE release. We don't have the full scope of it because the research is not completely done. But according to the acting head of the NCCE, Kathleen Addy, and what she tells us, it means that a lot of people in Ghana are saying our executive is too powerful, and that is in a way hobbling the work of, the state. We've come to that point, haven't we not? The people are saying, let's change this. So what else is needed?
Well, I will come back to my earliest point. Let's hasten slowly. We must, yes, I do agree. I am not happy with the level of patronage in the system. I am not happy with the enormous powers given to the president. I mean, let's be specific, president. Because even as we do agree that some of the appointments are not directly made by him, they are made on his powers. So the buck stops with him. So the presidency is enclosed with too much powers in the system. And indeed, as you stated, it affects the level of accountability we need in our democracy. And there's so much waste because of some of these things. However, we must be careful not to touch things in piecemeal, which in the end can affect our stability. For me, the most important thing this Constitution has done for us, among others, is to give us the state of stability that we have had to enable us even to hold this engagement we are having today. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to hold this engagement. So whatever we want to do, the challenges we've identified, they are all important for us to look at them. But whatever prescription we want to make, we must be careful not to touch our stability. Otherwise, it will not augur well for us in our democracy. So I am all for the review. I'm all for the changes that must be made to the Constitution, but we must be careful not to do anything that will affect our stability. That is my key point in all in all these.
And Guildford, I might as well add that when it comes to the powers, they are so wide. A few more to add when you look at Article 70. You would find in there as well the government statistician, apart from the audit service, and a list of others, the governor of the Bank of Ghana. It is so wide that it sometimes beats imagination, because it appears anywhere and everywhere. The president has a presence. And that also means that when it comes to the separation of powers and the influence of the executive, it is very difficult to clip the wings of an executive or a president who decides to, really hold the system by the scruff of the neck. But let's look at this other angle. The president also appoints representatives of the country abroad, aka, high commissioners to some countries or ambassadors as well. When you look at that area, is that something else we should be looking at in terms of maybe taking away those powers? What is your take on that?
Well, I think in our survey way back in 2010, most Ghanaians indicated that that power was still retained by the president, but with the approval of supermajority of parliament. So you have maybe 2/3 of members of parliament approving who has that mandate to represent the country outside. So the president can still have those powers, but it must pass through a strict process of vetting in parliament to ensure that we get the best people to represent us out there.
There is also the other matter when it comes to appointing ministers and deputy ministers. And this too, in the latest interaction with the NCC, or the NCC with the people of Ghana, has also raised a very crucial matter. Because we see how, per the Constitution, about 40% of the ministers and their deputies must come from the House of Parliament. What that means is those in Parliament who should be focusing on the legislative work of the House now have a divided attention, because a lot of them from the majority side will be ministers or deputies, which means that the focus they would have working in Parliament would be divided. That too has come to the fore. Guildford, your take on that and what remedial measures you feel we could bring to bear?
Well, that practice is very unhelpful to the health of our democracy, because we've spoken about the fact that checks and balances are very, very, very important. If we want to see or we want to get good results from these democratic experiments that we are doing, then we must sacrifice and go the hard way by not giving the executive the leeway to have excessive control of parliament. As you stated, speakers upon speakers have complained about the fact that they don't get numbers from the ruling administration. So it undermines the work of parliament in terms of the oversight that they play, one, even in terms of their lawmaking functions. If you don't have the people there who work in committees to consider these issues, how are you going to get the work done? So that is one of the issues. And again, as I said earlier, in terms of oversight, if you have majority of ministers being appointed from within parliament, and you don't place a ceiling on the number of ministers or ministries that the president can create, you can have a very crazy president who wants to establish 100 ministries and appoint ministers. What if this person decides, and he is supposed to get majority of his ministers from within parliament? What is going to be made of parliament? And currently, as you know, it is hard to have an executive who is willing to appoint members from the opposition. It hardly will happen. Again, what if we have the opposition party gaining more numbers in parliament or gaining more strength in parliament, and you have few members of the ruling party, from parliament, and you are going to appoint majority from within parliament. So the numbers game here, as we have it, I think it was decided on the incident in 1979, but I think the 1979 incident was misconstrued. It was basically Parliament doing its work. Parliament does its work by playing oversight over the executive. So if Parliament decides that the budget that the executive had presented was not right and that the executive had to withdraw the budget and bring in a new budget, I beg to differ that it's a recipe for instability. No, I don't think so. Parliament must hold the executive accountable under any circumstance. And what they need to do to hold the executive accountable, we must give them that leverage by stopping these majority of members of parliament from being appointed, from within parliament. In other jurisdictions like Nigeria, where they think that when you separate parliament from the judiciary, it may also cause, some difficulties. In the past, they made provisions for a past senator to mediate between the executive and parliament, so that if there are issues that are hard to to consider, he can mediate some of these. But apart from that, we need separation of powers to ensure that the executive plays oversight responsibility.
Fred,
the legislature, plays oversight responsibility over the executive.
Right. For you, Fred, so I just did some calculation here. If you were to use all 275 members of parliament, you would be getting about 110 of them if you're looking at the 40% quota. But it's also been agreed that, at least per the script in the Fourth Republic, presidents have been very reluctant to elect ministers or deputy ministers from the opposition. We've seen it a few times, depending on the political nature, when some parties, we saw Papa Kwesi Ndum, for example, at a point being a minister, but those have been rare instances, flashes in the pan. But when you look at the number that we have now, if you take 137, it would mean that some 54.8, which would then mean about 55 of them would come from Parliament. What for you is the real impact of this? And is that another matter that we ought to wait till we address the entire problem of our 1992 Constitution before we deal with?
No. The system does not impose any number on the president. It only says that the president should appoint a majority of his ministers from parliament. So even if the president chooses, the minimum number, if you look at the cabinet number of this country is 19. So at least the expectation in the constitution for if the president wants to appoint any number of ministers, the minimum he can appoint is 19. So if he were to go straightly by this and to appoint 19 ministers, no deputies, nothing else, the only point is that 10 of these people at least should be members of parliament. That is what the system says. There's no 40% rule. It says a majority of the ministers must be from parliament. But I want to chip in at this point. It is not as if that if you have members of parliament being ministers, it should necessarily create problems with separation of powers. If you go to the British system, there's fusion of powers in there. Members of parliament are also, in fact, a great majority of the ministers are members of parliament. Even within that system, there's still separation of powers at play. Parliament exercises its own, it exercises a lot of oversight over the work of the executive, even under this fusion system. They practice parliamentary system of governance. So it is a question of our failure to understand the system we adapted for ourselves. And we've gone ahead to give so much powers to the presidency. So by itself, if you have this kind of fusion as pertains in the British system, which we are trying to copy to a large extent, I don't think it is totally bad. But it is our failure to practice what we have adapted effectively. That is what is causing us. So yes, if we want strict separation, I have no qualms about that. But I just want to put out there that you can have this fusion and still get Parliament to exercise the level of control or oversight it has to over the executive.
Do you feel, in looking at this arrangement, that maybe we should have clauses that permit or stipulate that in any administration there should be a quota as well for the opposition in terms of ministerial positions? Would that be a form of a solution?
I will be careful to go ahead to, put this in law. The current system does not doesn't prevent any president from doing that, but it may not be fair to do an analysis of past events.
Right.
All the past people who've been appointed. President Kufuor appointed a couple of people. President Mills also appointed people outside his party. Let us go, if we want to pick each one.
So
of them,
just because you mentioned, when you look at Kufuor, for example, outside of the MPP, there was Malam Issa of the PNC. He was made Minister for Youth and Sports. There was, like I mentioned, Papa Kwesi Nzum.
How did it end?
Yeah,
how did Malam Issa
end? We could talk about how it ended in an ignominious manner, but at least the appointment was made.
Even Papa Kwesi Nzum.
Right.
How did it end? If you talk to some MPP members, they will tell you that at the point Papa Kwesi Nzum was claiming every good thing that the Kufuor administration did. And do you think it's also fair? Malam Issa, how did Malam Issa end?
Rather
Would that have
abruptly.
happened to him if he had been an MPP member? So these are some of the challenges. Even in recent times, Minister Azong, under President Mills.
Right.
How did it end? He was the last PNC man standing. He lost his seat. And to who? To an NDC member. So these are some of the challenges that you will grapple with. But of course, I believe in consensus building. So we must at all times build consensus. We must have situations that we can come together as a country. Because at the end of the day, this is our country. This is the only Ghana we have. If we don't do things that will help ourselves, nobody will come from outside to help us do anything. So if we can work out within the system, the current system for me does not exclude the president from appointing people outside his party. Only they've done it, but for me, I don't think in all the cases, the end has not been really great for me to say that we can go on that path going forward.
So some have also suggested that let the president keep on making the appointments, no wahala, but let the recommendations come from independent bodies or other bodies. What is your take on that? In other words, let the president still, go ahead in terms of appointing from a list or a pool of people, but he will not be in charge of constituting the pool of people. That would also be some sort of remedy, wouldn't it?
That is something we can fashion if we really want to do that. But more importantly, in all the cases, I want us to begin to put a cap on these appointments. How many people should be appointed as ministers? How many people should be appointed as Supreme Court judges? That capping system should be part of the conversation.
So you're saying that as far as the justices of the court are concerned, for example, we should have a cap?
We should have a cap. Ghana, we are not that big a country. I believe from 7 to 9 Supreme Court judges should be enough for us. Maybe we may need a lot more judges at the lower level to spread it throughout the country. Justice delivery should also be decentralized. It should be as close to the people as possible. That is what we need. And then for term limits, for me, that is also important. The capping of the numbers and term limits. But if we are appointing an auditor general, why don't we ask the person to be in power for 4 years, as we've done for the Office of the Special Prosecutor? That one, 7 years for me was even long. But term limitations should be put on key appointments so that...
Like which ones? So you've mentioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Which other ones come to mind? Should the Electoral Commissioner, for example, be on a time leash?
There must be a time limitation. That you should be there for maybe 1 electoral cycle, at best 2 electoral cycles. But I don't see anything wrong with being there for 1 electoral cycle.
What do you think that would mean? Let's just stay on that bit, the Electoral Commission. What do you think that would mean for continuity? I remember Afarijan, for example, talking about continuity and the importance of this and that. What do you think? If the person serves for just 1 term, it could still be politically manipulated.
No. I mean, if the president is not appointing the person, president is not appointing the person, but we have a system in place that will take appointees through rigorous processes, right, and that you cannot bring in your favorites to take up those positions, then that person also knows they are only there for specified period, after which they will not be there. This issue of, for instance, if you have a president who is mischievous and starts appointing 40-year-olds as chairpersons for SHRAG, chairperson for this, and they'll be there. And you know, all these people have got enormous powers. That discretionary one, for that matter, too. Right. And they are there and serving the interest of that political party that brought them into office. That is also an angle we should be looking at. They are all not helping our governance system. Okay.
I'll be taking your concluding comments in maybe just about 2 minutes. But Guilfred, I just want you to address this final bit, and then you could add your concluding comments to it. There's also the bit about the CEOs of different state-owned enterprises and the boards to which many people are put by His Excellency, the President. We also see a certain rotation. They move along with the political terms. And so when a new party is in place, you know that all of you are going to be leaving within, 3 to 6 months, and a new crop of people will be there. In that instance, do you feel maybe we could have a system that allows those who are efficient, effective at post to remain regardless of which party is in power? And then you can add your concluding thoughts.
Well, I strongly believe that if you look at a report on these state-owned enterprises, it points to any president, to any Ghanaian, that the way we've been doing things in terms of appointing people to these enterprises have not worked.
Right.
I mean, the cost we incur is just too much. And so a different modality for appointing people to serve.
It shows even in the performance of the SOEs, doesn't it? Because we simply put people there based on political affiliation.
Exactly. And unfortunately, some of them are not even accountable in terms of reports and other things that they are supposed to submit to Parliament on specific times. So I think there's a clear signal that we need to depart from what you've been doing because it hasn't helped us in any way. And then maybe having a more meritocratic system of appointing people to these state-owned enterprises may be more appropriate for us. I don't really have any time asked these people should there for 4 or 3 or 5 years, but I think the processes for appointing them should be meritocratic. It should be based on a merit system and passed through the Public Services Commission, appointing very qualified people to serve. I mean, you can even have advertise these positions and select the best through the Public Services Commission so that the president can take it up. In doing all these things, let me just divert a bit. We need to understand the incentives, why your president or politicians want to have a hold over these state-owned enterprises. They appoint their people there, they feel party foot soldiers and party loyalists there because that is where they get their resources.
Right.
So unless we change the incentive structures, we may not be successful in this endeavor or trying to just change the way things work in these state-owned enterprises.
All right.
So on a whole, I think we've come, of age to do new things to ensure that our democracy does not fail. right before us, we've been failing over the years because things haven't improved. Things continue to get worse, either perception of corruption or trust in state institutions. All these things are getting worse because of the way we do our things. And principally because we are giving the executive too much powers that make them almost unaccountable.
Right.
They appoint other people to be who are supposed to, hold them accountable. They appoint other important people who are supposed to, ensure trustworthiness in the way government functions.
Right.
And it's about time we began to revisit these things. Constitutional reform is necessary and we need it, and we must do it to ensure that we safeguard our democracy.
All right. Guildford, we're immensely grateful for your time. But just to cap it all off, let me give the same opportunity to Fred Ejakun Odro as well. Interestingly, as you deliver your summary thoughts in just about a minute, if you can do that, a thought that just came to mind. Especially as you've been talking about term limits for the OSP and all of that, in other jurisdictions, even in neighboring countries, presidents themselves have maybe 5-year terms, 6-year terms, like we'll see in France as well. Do you think it would work if we had a single-term presidency so that you come for 5 or 6 years and you can't run again? Just feed that into your final thoughts. Or should we have, like some have said, 2 years maximum for a single term?
I think it is worth considering a long single term of 6 years or so, 7 years. I mean, whatever the number that we may all agree, because we spend too much time on, campaigning. We don't have a specified electoral system, electoral cycle in this country. So at the end of the last election is the beginning of the next election. So if we were having a single-term presidency, a long single-term presidency, I think it is worth considering, and I'll be very happy to be part of such a discussion.
How many years? How many years would you propose? In the Ivory Coast,
I would go between 6 to 7 years.
6 to 7 years.
I think that might be worth considering. But let me conclude by stating that I believe we need to have a holistic look at our constitution. There are a number of areas we may have to change or review, whichever word is appropriate. But I would pray that we can first and foremost build consensus on this process and the key things we are going to do. I would hope we can, in a spirit of compromise, agree on what is best for our country. We may not get everything perfect at the first instance, but the Constitution should be a living document that is subject to change periodically. But if we are going to go into a major review too, I'll always pray that we hasten slowly in arriving at any conclusion, because this is the most enduring constitution we've ever had in this country.
True.
And whatever we want to do with it, we must be very careful, and we must do it in the spirit of nationalism, that we're going to do best for the country, not what is best for any group of people or any individual.
It's been insightful, this engagement. Fred Ejakun Odro, local government analyst, joining the conversation. Thank you so much, sir. We also had Guildford Esiama, research fellow with the CDD. But stay with us. Right after the break, we're getting into all the talk about monkeypox. 5 cases detected, and one of them, a Ghanaian who traveled to the United States, a returnee. Now we have the Eastern, Western, and Greater Accra regions. What are the ins and outs? What should we know about monkeypox and how to safeguard ourselves? That discussion up next on the AM show. Do stay.
Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's now time to talk health. And 5 cases of monkeypox have been confirmed in the Eastern Bono and Greater Accra regions. That's according to the Ghana Health Service. Now, one of the cases was recorded in a Ghanaian who traveled to the United States of America. To help us have this conversation on understanding what monkeypox is all about, we have Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng. He is Director of Health for Bono East, Charles Nora, an epidemiologist, and with the Ghana Field Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program, University of Ghana. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Hello?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Great to have you here. Now, I remember, Doc, and we spoke a while ago about the situation with regards to COVID in the Bono East region, and I remember that we said we were not out of the woods yet when it comes to COVID-19. But here we are facing another situation, that's monkeypox. And we will be going into the details of what it is, how we can prevent it, and what signs to look out for. But let me start by finding out from you how you have recorded a monkeypox situation, right?
No.
Not in the Bono East.
Yes.
Okay.
We are hoping we won't.
But tell us really what is happening. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling what's happening in our world. We dealt with COVID-19. Some people are still battling with the disease. And when we thought we could just get a breath of fresh air, here we have monkeypox. What's happening in our world, really?
There are a number of issues. And I don't want to be a prophet of doom. We should expect more if we don't change the way we do things globally. Because the epidemics are going to come and go, but the frequency depends on the way that we live as a society. For instance, if the other issues, we are invading on the habitation of animals, wild animals, then they will have to come and live with us. That's one of them. Their diseases then become ours also. So that's also another. Then if you also look at in terms of globalization, the way people are migrating to the urban communities. And so there's kind of traffic and overcrowded areas as compared to what we used to have. And so that initially, if it was taking a longer time for a disease to be transmitted from one community to another, now that access is more reduced because of the way that we travel together. So that's the other thing. So we are not going to come out of the epidemics now. What we have to do is that how do we plan and mitigate them as to when they come? That should be the discussion. How do we make sure that when they come, we're able to get them early, isolate the cases, and then prevent other people from getting? What measures do we put in place that when people even get it, we are able to take very good care of them? That should be the discussion. For me, it's not a matter of when, but it's a matter of how prepared are we to fight when we have them. And as you said, COVID is still not out. As we are speaking now, Bono East, we have about 3 active cases. It's been quiet for a long time, but you can see that it's still not gone. But so what do we do as a country, as a region, to make sure that we're able to pick it as early as possible, and then we prevent loss of life and property? That should be the discussion for me, looking at how the world is going.
Let me find out from you, Mr. Charles Nora, on your part, what do you think is accounting for what we are seeing happening across the world when it comes to infections and viruses?
Yes, so good morning once again, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. So I think I agree more with Dr. Adomako's submissions, largely because the WHO had earlier predicted that once cases were
we started recording cases in some countries crossing into regions. The cases were going to go up into countries where hitherto were not endemic areas. And so the question is, how should we be preparing towards responding to outbreaks like this? So I think to a large extent, this has been predicted, and we need to really prepare for a response, other than the question of when are we going to have the next epidemic. And largely because the ecosystem has been disturbed. And once the ecosystem is disturbed, over 70% of most diseases that affect human beings comes from animal origin. So that is where we refer to as the zoonotic diseases. They form over 70% of all the diseases that currently causes pandemics globally. And so if we don't look around and fix the issues of the ecosystem, and we continue to disturb the natural habitat of these animals, the diseases that live with them will eventually cross to human. And the most worrying part is that if they are able to cross to human and there is that ability of person-to-person transmission, then we have a situation on our hands. So I think the question should really be, how prepared should we be as a nation and as a continent to respond to this?
I'll have you two hold on. We've been joined by Dr. Franklin Nsidu-Bekwin. He is Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for joining the program. So we have another, if I may say, kid on the block, that's monkeypox, and a lot of people are beginning to share an opinion about this. There's a lot of talk about monkeypox. Let me find out from you first and foremost. There are those who trade in bushmeat, and since we had the likes of Ebola, they've complained about how, you know, these diseases have affected the purchase of their goods because we're always associating it with bushmeat, like we just heard the epidemiologists say. With monkeypox, are we affected if we consume bushmeat?
Okay, and thank you very much. So I think that when it comes to managing pandemics, the cost issue should be put on the back burner. Okay. The issue is about public health. So you cannot say because of your losses in product, people should consume what they shouldn't consume. This is by the way. But what I'm saying is that it depends on the disease in question and the way it's transmitted. So you need to look at the habitat of the viruses. So for monkeypox, they are talking about the natural reservoirs being monkeys or rats or squirrels. So what is crucial is the way these animals are handled. So it's not just the eating. It's because if, let's say, you want to kill a squirrel, I think you need to catch it and dismember it. So by so doing, you get into contact with the secretions and blood. So in that case, we are talking about contact with your skin. So that's how come the caution is. So it's about avoiding contact. So we need to be able to be sure where are the natural habitats of these pathogens. So we tend to have limited information about what is the scope of these viruses. So for now, you're talking about squirrels, talking about monkeys, talking about rats. And I think that for now, we are not saying full banning the eating of these things. We are talking about the handling of them. So I think that's the general information. But as has been said, we are getting more zoonotic conditions because man is eroding into the habitat of animals. So we are actually encouraging the contact between ourselves and the animals. And when you do that, you inherit the disease of the animals. I want to say that this talk about monkeypox is trying to override our focus on COVID-19. And I think that's an issue that is of concern to us. monkeypox is fatal, but there is level of disruption. Is not compared to COVID-19. So I think that things must be put in that perspective. As far as we are concerned, monkeypox is not very new, though it's new in Ghana. Nigeria and Central Africa, including Cameroon, have had monkeypox over the years, and it has been managed. So far as our health staff, our workforce, are not overloaded by COVID-19, we have a system in place to handle any threat of monkeypox. And I think that we want that message to go clear so that we don't use all our energies to fight monkeypox. One thing that I think, which is I would say is an advantage or opportunity for monkeypox is that the transmission is when the person is infected. Unlike COVID-19, that you can have transmission in an asymptomatic person, which is very tricky. So I think that there's a way by which you can actually curtail the effect of monkeypox.
Okay, because I mean, once reporting the issue of COVID, I was going to ask if it is as contagious, if monkeypox is as contagious as COVID-19, but you've answered that question. It would have to take someone to show symptoms to transmit the disease, right? Yes, and so if you look at the productive number of monkeypox, I think it's about 1.1, whereby you can talk about Omicron that goes in excess of 5. But so the transmissibility of monkeypox is less compared to COVID-19, and I think that's one thing that we want to push across. And luckily, I think that if you look at the case fatality over the world, it's very minimal. So what I want to push is COVID should not overstretch our health workforce, so that if we get some cases of monkeypox, we cannot handle them. And I think that is the way we want to manage them. We have a good civil system that can actually dictate the cases, contact trace, so you can contain them. But then if they are overrun by COVID, then in that case, their work is minimal. And then that's the time that we may have our health system be overrun by monkeypox. All right, Doc, I'm told you have to leave, but just one final thing. I'm looking at an article by Nature, and it's saying that countries such as Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States have begun implementing ring vaccination to try to halt the spread of monkeypox. Is that something we're looking at, or we just want to use the protocols to try and deal with the situation?
No, I think that vaccination, everybody will say, is really the ultimate form of control. But we can actually handle monkeypox for it to get to that level. So I think that I want our system to be very effective in terms of our surveillance, about early detection, so that we don't get that those kind of large numbers. I'm not sure about the level of vaccines. You know this issue, the challenge we have about this COVID. We do have any vaccines. So I think it's early days yet. Let's focus on our surveillance, detect the case early, and manage them. So it becomes a very little kind of outbreak that can actually overcome. When the vaccines come, we use them.
Thank you very much for your time. Dr. Franklin Esiedu-Beku is Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, and we just had to let him go. But we still have our two guests to continue this conversation on monkeypox and how we can identify it, how we can all stay safe. We've got Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng, who is Director of Health, I beg your pardon, for the Bono East region, and Charles Nora, who is an epidemiologist. So let me come to you, Dr. Adomako-Boateng. Let's come to the specifics. How do I stay safe? How do I protect myself from contracting monkeypox? I'm sorry, Doctor.
Cardinal way of transmission is by contact. If you remember what Dr. Esiedu-Beku said, that the rate of transmission is not as compared to COVID-19. One of the critical ways that one can get the disease is when you are in close proximity with an infected person. And you can get it through the body fluid of that person. So if you look at the current outbreak, it's really clustered among people who are really having some intimacy together. So that's one way of getting it. Body fluids through contact of a person. The second way that you can also get monkeypox is when we have large respiratory droplets as compared to COVID. So you see the droplets in monkeypox are quite heavier as compared to COVID-19. And then you have to also to be closer to the person for a longer period before the person can transmit it to you. So you can see the dynamics of how monkeypox is transmitted to the other person. So in this context, that's what we will have to look at. Contact, that is skin-to-skin contact with a person, face-to-face, and that one is through droplets, heavy droplets, then mouth to skin. These are main modes of getting it. So we shouldn't be worried, as Dr. Esiedu Bequin said but socially, I mean, when you have these lesions, you can't go into other social gatherings. And then also the way that we are transported, we move from one area to other. You see that we are actually able to other persons. So these are ways that we can transmit the virus from one person to that. Then to touch on, is actually not consuming the animal that is infected that you get the monkeypox, which we call the oral tube from the mouth. No, this one is actually when you get in contact with the skin of the infected animal. So we should look at that. It's not really consumption, but when you get in contact with the infected monkey, squirrel, rodent, any other animal that's infected, then you get it. But we should know that that is not a way to sustain transmission. Most of the time, when there is an outbreak, an index person, one person gets it, what actually will sustain the transmission is from person to person, person to person. And you know the conditions that will let this be right, especially in crowded areas, as we have been discussing. Then also the other with the respiratory routes, especially when we know how it's gotten. So there are two distinct animals that we are discussing.
All right.
In terms of case fatality rate, as Dr. Esiedu Bequin said, is not really, really high. And even if you look at the people that also tend to get it also, these are all other factors that we will have to look at when we are looking at monkeypox in context.
All right, Doc. You mentioned how the virus is transmitted from animals to humans. What about humans to human, especially with emphasis on the skin to skin? Are you saying then that if I come into contact with the sweat or the blood of somebody who's been infected by monkeypox and it touches my skin, I'm going to get the virus, or like COVID, it needs an entry point, like my nose or my eyes? Just help us, please.
So you get it through the fluid. So especially if you have lesions on that particular person and the lesion happens to get on you, there should be a breach. So if there is a cut anywhere on the skin, because it cannot actually go through. So if there is a cut, then that virus will get entry through the blood system and get into. So that is one way of getting it, because if you even look at the presentation and how it's going to present when we discuss it, so there should be a breach where the fluid of the infected person should get in contact with that. And normally when we are saying that, you actually need a micro breach in that skin so that the viruses that you cannot really see will penetrate into that. So in terms of contact, that is how you will get it. you will have to actually get in contact with the lesions, the fluid, the body fluids. Even as you said, if the body fluid is containing it and it comes in contact with a breached skin, your skin is exposed somehow, then you get it. Then also when it's through respiratory droplets, as we have discussed, through the mucous memory, for the eye, for the nose, then that means you are able to get it. So that's one of the major ways of getting the true contacts.
Mr. Charles Nora, let me bring you in because of your specialty as an epidemiologist. Your job includes determining how to control or stop the spread of viruses or prevent such infections from ever happening again. Now, the first time monkeypox was identified, it was in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1970 in a 9-month-old boy. So since 1970 till now, the question is, why have we not been able to stop this particular virus like it's happened for other cases like the smallpox? What is the nature of the virus, and is it that we have to brace ourselves to live with them, you know, and not eliminate them totally?
Okay, so I think that we must get the trajectory of how these viruses affect human populations. And we are saying that it's coming from an animal population, so first of all. So the world first discovered monkeypox virus in 1970, as you rightly mentioned, and since then there have been very few cases in just 1 or 2 countries, namely Cameroon and Nigeria. And once they continue to exist in those 2 countries, it poses a threat to the entire world. And so those countries had become endemic for monkeypox. So periodically, you would have people getting in touch with animals that have the infection, or then they propagate it from human to human transmission, like Dr. Adomako has also explained. So since the pandemic in 1990, we have had the situation endemic in about 2 countries. And once they continue to exist, they become a source of transmission to any other countries. Remember, almost all the countries that have reported cases, the first cases that were reported, for instance, in the US, were from travelers. And in our case, we also have a traveler for the 5 cases that have come in. So the diseases don't move. It is human beings that will move. And once we have them in parts of our population around the globe, and the world has become a global village, we will continue to have these cases spread until we work together. And that's the reason why the Spirit of One Health, working with the veterinarians, and they work with the animals, and they are specialized in controlling infections in the animal population and wild animals. So the human health and the animal health have to work together so that we can begin to reduce and then eliminate gradually these diseases that affect both animal and human populations.
Dr. Adomako, let me come to you. So we've spoken about how this is transmitted, but how do I know if I have been infected by the virus? Let's do this quickly in about 2 minutes so that people who are at home can look out for certain signs and report to the nearest health facility once they experience the signs or show the symptoms.
So the first one is almighty fever. You have an unusually high body temperature. That is one of them. Then the second one that I will want to talk about is, and permit me so that I can do further explanation.
Okay.
What we call swollen lymph nodes. And I will do some explanation. You know, we have some structures in our armpits and in our groins.
Okay.
That normally helps us to fight against diseases. With monkeypox, when you see some bumps in your armpits. They are hard. And that's what we call that your lymph nodes are swollen. It's very important as compared to COVID. You remember we didn't talk about anything like lymph nodes. So it can be in the 2 armpits or in the 2 groins. When we feel these, they are lamprey, they are rubbery, but they are unusual. They are unusual. And it's important that when you have those presentations. Then the other one is headaches that you cannot actually pinpoint to any particular reason. Then your muscles backache. So these are some of the, I would say, non-specific signs of monkeypox. They are non-specific in the sense that most diseases present like this. Then the other one, almighty one, that will come up with the lesions, which normally will start around your face or your chest or at the back. Then it will spread outside to your arms. These are the things that you will see when you think that you have monkeypox. But I will have to emphasize, there are a lot of presentations that look like this. And therefore, you don't jump into conclusion by the mere fact of having these signs and symptoms. You have to go so that we take sample and that we'll be able to confirm. You remember the initial one that we had at Shama, Western region, that almost everywhere they said that we had monkeypox in Ghana for all of us to test and see, because there are a lot of presentations that mimic this kind. For example, fever, headaches, and all these body aches. These are the things that you see. And the other thing that you also will have to look for, if you have come in contact with somebody who had these lesions, you also should be thinking about, it's likely that because I have been in close contacts with this person, or I have been in some environment where there was a likely of there were rashes, then these are things that will prompt us.
All right, Doc. So these ones that you've mentioned, they come before the skin eruption, like what we are seeing in the image behind me, right?
Yes. You will have to. They will always precede these before. And even as we said, you see this presentation is at the arm, the arm and the lower part of your arm. But normally, it would have started somewhere, typically, before it was spread to these. And we know ourselves better than any other person. That is what I will say. That since you know yourself and some of the presentations that will come to you that you see are atypical, not normal, then it calls for you to go for examination.
Finally, Doc, so apart from reporting to the hospital early enough when you see these signs, we are being told that one way to also prevent this is to stick to what we were doing during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is to wash our hands and keep sanitizing and keep our personal hygiene. That's right.
That's right. And I think this is where we should go now as a country, because the epidemics are upon us, if I can borrow this word. And therefore, we will have to make sure that some of the things that we do to prevent them are part of our normal lifestyle. You remember during the peak of COVID, almost everywhere that you went, you saw a Veronica bucket soap. Everywhere we went, they were giving you sanitizers to sanitize our hands. And when we are not feeling well, we stayed in the house or we had cold, we put on our mask. These are the new normal that we said we should adhere to, with or without monkey or COVID, so that when they become part and parcel of us, then some of the diseases unknown to us, we will abort them and prevent them. How do we make sure this is our lifestyle going forward?
I really appreciate your time here this morning. Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng is the Bono East Director of Health. We also had Charles Nora, who is an epidemiologist. And then we heard from Dr. Franklin Esiedu-Bekwe, Director of Public Health, Ghana Health Service, on this particular issue. So remember to stay safe, keep washing your hands, and practice all the safety protocols. . remember on Wednesday, we brought you an interview with the Director General of the Ghana Meteorological Agency, who says the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority and the Ghana Airport Company Limited owe them some 80 million cedis. Well, we've gotten a response from the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority.
So thank you very much for agreeing to speak to us. We've listened to the Director General of the Ghana Metro Agency. The thing is, he says there are some monies that have to come to them that have not come. So why this development?
Yeah, it's true that in 2019 there was amendment to the GMET Act. In the Act, Ghana Civil Aviation is to give them a portion of our aeronautical revenues. So what we did was that we had a meeting with GMET, including the DG himself, and I had a meeting personally with him, and we all agree that we're going to do a reconciliation of the figures. So the two teams, our finance team and their finance team, have been meeting, and they are yet to come out with figures. So I was surprised that he's mentioning figures of 60 million, 80 million, and I've never seen that figure. So until they conclude on that reconciliation meeting, we have no figure. And from there we can come out with a payment plan on how to go forward with payment. So that is where we are. Okay. And we are still talking, I'm still talking with the DG. Before we come out with a payment plan and we finish the reconciliation, we've been giving them some payments. And the last payment that we gave them was 400,000 Ghana cedi. That was in March. And he can confirm as well that we've given them some payment. And apart from that, we've been supporting them in their maintenance activities. We are buying new equipment for them. We are supporting their training activities, both local and external. And sometimes even their external obligations, they come here for support. So we've been doing that. So I'm surprised that he's saying that we are not forthcoming. We have been having meetings with them. I've been having meetings with the DG, and my two finance teams have been meeting, and very soon we'll come with a figure after the reconciliation, and then we'll come out with a payment plan. So that is where we are. So for now, that's the only thing I can say, that we are waiting for the teams to come out with a figure. But the figure he's mentioning, I don't think is the truth. But when we come out with the figure, we'll come out with a payment plan. And as I said before then, before the conclusion of the two financing coming out with the figures, we have started even giving them some payments. So
those monies that you give them are for what?
Yeah, for equipment, to support the procuring of equipment, as well as for their maintenance activities, because they provide services to civil aviation. And as part of the act, we had to give them a portion of aeronautical revenues. So that is what we are doing, and we will continue to do that.
So if they are quoting a certain figure, and I'm sure you also know at roughly how much comes in, how much is it likely that it's possible you may be owing them?
I can't tell. I can't tell. That's why I've given the tax to the two finance team. So my finance team, I've been meeting with them, as I said earlier, and they will come out with the figure. The figure he's mentioning, I can attest to that, and I can confirm that. They will come out with a figure, and the two teams will meet, and then we'll come out with a payment plan. And as I said earlier, even before that, we've started giving them some monies. We've been paying them, and the last payment that we made was in March, and we will continue paying them until we come out of a figure that will be agreed by both teams.
What kind of service do they render to you?
Yeah, meteorological services. They provide information on weather to the airlines, and we are supposed to pay them for that services that they provide.
Also, the services are provided for the airlines, not for you?
Not for us per se, for the airlines.
Okay. Yeah. So how come you are the ones who have to
pay? Well, that's what the law says, that we have to pay for that services. So in fact, before the amendment came, we all sat down. Both ministries sat down, and we decided that this is how we should go. It's in a way of also supporting their activities, and you know that they provide very important services to the airlines, especially the aircraft, and as the provider of air navigation services for the whole Accra flight information region, we have to also support them, and that is what we've been doing. So since 2019 that amendment came into force, you all know what happened in 2020. The COVID came in, the airport was closed from March to September, and our revenues come from the provision of air navigation services, as well as also the safety charges from passengers. And that time there were no passengers, so our revenue moved from 100% to 5%. So we all suffered, and we've been explaining to them that we are now picking up, so they should give us time. We will come out with a payment plan that we all will support and we all agree. So they've agreed. So I don't know why they are saying that they agreed with us. We've exchanged letters, and our two teams are meeting constantly, and we are making payments even before they conclude on the meetings. So that is what we are doing at the moment. So if they say we owe them, I cannot say we owe, because you haven't concluded on any figure. If you conclude on that figure, then we will know whether we owe them this amount or that amount. So until then, we cannot put our hands on any figure. Yeah.
So effectively, about a half of 2019 and then 2021 to 20, because 2020, like you
yes,
said.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. 2020, our revenues are now picking up. Okay. And the industry hasn't gotten to the first quarter of 2019 or first quarter of 2020 as passenger throughput. It hasn't got to that level. Okay. And we hope that it will get to that level very soon. But until then, we are managing with whatever. But it's picking up. Started picking up from the beginning of the year, and we hope that by the end of the year we'll have reached the level that we were before COVID. But they should be patient with us. We will pay them. Even during the difficult period of COVID in 2020, we were still making payments to them, although we had almost zero revenues, but we're making payment to them, so they should bear with us.
Okay, my final question. When is it likely that you finish with reconciliation so that they can get the payment and then they can go about their operations?
Yes, so what we are doing is the reconciliation is ongoing between the two teams, and I cannot put a definite date or definite time to that, but what I will say is as soon as possible they will conclude on the discussion, the reconciliation activities, and as soon as they conclude, then we will come out with a premium plan based on also our revenues, and we will start. But as I said, even before then, we have some payment that we've been making to them, and the last one was in March, as I said earlier. So we will not wait until they conclude on the reconciliation. We will still be making payment. They might say it's not enough and all that, but we have also gone through difficult period during the COVID. We are all coming up of the industry. We went down, as I said, from 100% to 5%. But we are now picking up. We are somewhere between 40-50%, and we are operating on that revenue figure. But whatever we get, we also release some money to them, and we'll continue to do that until we get a final figure on how much we owe them. Then we come out of a payment plan.
Why not support them in terms of equipment so they can better serve you?
Yes, we've been doing it. In fact, I said it in my earlier comment that we've been buying equipment for them. In fact, a couple of years ago, we bought an equipment for them, which is called an AWOS, which they are using. And we are maintaining them. And we send them outside for training. We paid for everything. We paid their ticket and everything, the cost of the training. And we are maintaining them. Apart from buying equipment, we also help them in maintenance of other facilities. And we also help them in training. In fact, when there's an opportunity for them to go outside to train, we assist them. When recently they had a challenge in payment of their dues to World Meteorological Agency, and we help them. We paid that amount for them, and we've been doing that. They even in our premises, we don't charge them rent. They are we provide electricity free for them. We provide air condition, all the facilities we provide for them. We don't charge them anything. All this we do to also help them and to do their work efficiently. So that is what we've been doing.
Thank you, sir.
Bernice Abubedulansa, and you need to get ready for the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, which is coming off on the 14th of June at the Mervyn Pick Ambassador Hotel. It is the second in the year, because we're in the second quarter. There was one done for the first quarter. I've got Kojo Labi, he is Manager Communications, Stanbic Bank, and Charles Benoni Okai, Acting Editor, Graphic Business, to help us understand what this second quarter is focusing on and why you need to pay attention to it. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining. So this is Kojo Labi, and this is Mr. Benoni. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
We are partners of this particular breakfast meeting because we aired on our channel live as well. This theme for the second quarter is focusing on unemployment. Let me start with you, Mr. Labi. Why this topic and why now?
So if there's anything more apt than this, I'll struggle to find it. Even though we chose things that we know will be most relevant for the people, it looks like this has been perfectly chosen. We've heard of discussions on the political landscape where primarily people are concerned about how they'll get jobs. Yes, the topic was chosen and there's no way we can provide jobs. But the idea of this event with our partners is to ensure that many more people get to know about the solutions that the experts will bring on board. Because as a young man, I recall being told at the university that those who passed through used to finish and they were guaranteed jobs, including vehicles being provided for them before they left. That world is gone. The fact of the matter is, even government cannot employ everybody. So if it's the public sector that would drive growth, as has been happening around the world, what are the skills that you are looking for? How do we direct people in that area? If it's about education, how do we ensure that those skills are the ones that we keep pushing? And I guess those are the big issues that Tuesday we hope to be tackled by our panel of experts. People can always have issues. I get what we don't want to have. You cannot have full employment, neither do you want to have high unemployment, such that it becomes a problem for the society. Then you and I cannot sleep well. You may finish your work and then the people who should have been able to fend for themselves start thinking about how and who they can attack in order that they would also feed themselves. I guess any part of the society that helps to do this makes you and I feel safer. And that's why I come from a bank where we facilitate dreams, right? So if we can help to create the enabling environment in terms of the discussion and offer solutions, I guess our job would have been that. So that's how come we are.
Interesting. Yes, I'll come back to you, but I want to hear from Mr. Benoni.
Yeah, I think you're also aware of the release of the census report that talks about unemployment in the country around 13.6%. if you speak to the statisticians, they even tell you that the unemployment rate in the country is even about 3 times higher, because we are using the ILO format to calculate. So you ask somebody for the last 1 hour, how many have you done any work? Mm-hmm. If you ask the same person 5 hours, it will give you a higher rate. That's what the statisticians explain. And this has been a bother. If you even listen to some of our security experts, that unemployment in the country is a security problem. So we found it necessary to, bring this thing up at this time. We know it's a listening government that can, listen to the ideas that some of our panelists will share, and then, find solutions to it.
Talking about what the panelists will share, we've seen the nature of your breakfast meeting. Very few people in attendance, with panelists sharing their thoughts and ideas and giving solutions. But when it comes to unemployment, a lot of young people want to be heard. They want to be part of that conversation. Is there opportunity this time round to have them be a part of it?
It's a yes and no. The no part is about the fact that we can only have it at a venue where we keep pushing the issues around the COVID situation and the fact that we can have too many people in one place.
Okay.
But fortunately, the same difficulty of COVID gave us the idea that virtual reality is here. So what it means is that we would encourage as many people as possible to join online through our the social media handles of Stambik and Graphic, and I guess they can also follow on your platform.
Yes.
So it is actually an indication of how the world is going. I suspect many of the skills that people need today are the ones that bring the world of the old, the physical, with the new, the virtual. And that's how you and I would be. I guess as we are there now, there's somebody somewhere in another country watching us.
Definitely.
Not physically with us,
yes,
but taking part in this conversation. I guess it's the same thing that we want to encourage people to keep pushing the barriers, and I guess somehow we'll get it.
So, Mr. Okai, tell us who is speaking at this event and why should we come or pay attention to them at all?
As usual, we select the best of the best. This time around, we have Dr. Edu Ususa-Kodie. He's an economics lecturer at the University of Ghana. And then we have Miss Florence Hope Wudu is a managing consultant, Purple Almond Consulting Services. And our own Nana Osebonsu, the president of Private Enterprise Foundation. We've assembled these minds because the one from Dr. Sarkodie, for instance, is an educationist. He teaches economics. He understands the issue, so he is doing the education side of it. And then we have the Madam Florence, who is also a trainer when it comes to giving training for employed people and also giving some counseling to the unemployed. And then Dr. Nana Osebonsu, who is also an industry player, who also share perspective as to who they want. There's been this discussion around those people that will churn out to come into industry. So who will share that kind of perspective, and let's see how that pans out.
Mr. Labi, you are Director of Communications. Beyond the meeting itself, what do you do with the outcomes, the conversations? How do we ensure that it translates into the realities we want to see on the ground? How do we measure the impact of the program?
Thank you. I was in a conference last week, and I heard some people say, private sector people speaking, and they said years ago they thought that they didn't want to do anything with government or politicians, for the simple reason that it takes a bit of a time to get things implemented. Then, by the time of the conference, the position was that you need to influence policy. This is one of the channels that we believe help to push that agenda. You come up with recommendations from this, collated, and then it's forwarded to the appropriate quarters so that it guides all those actions that would be taken on our behalf. Maybe they have the answers, maybe they don't. Influencing the gathering of the info that helps to push us forward, I believe is very important. And like I said earlier, this is a bank that believes that we can facilitate dreams. There are people out there who want to have things going. Do they have the answers? Do they know what to do? Do they know the right skills they want to take? Even when they have, what are the enabling factors that are needed to ensure that? If it's the virtual community want to push, if it's the digital community want to push, what are the things needed to ensure that those things happen? And I guess that's how we want to see this going forward, as has been happening, and we shall keep pushing the same thing.
All right, so it's June the 14th, right? Next week, and it will be live on your social media platforms. And there are also partners like JoyNews, Joy FM, but do you want to acknowledge any more partners, any of you?
Yeah, I think Stambik has been our main sponsor for this, and we value that kind of relationship so much because as the agenda setters, we need the rightful partner who understands what we are doing to get us the message to the people. So we are grateful to Stambik for this opportunity.
I hear when a chief has spoken. You don't have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Kujalabi is manager for communications at Stanbic Bank, and Mr. Benoni Okain is acting editor at Graphic Business. Don't forget, we will be reminding you of that particular event and the importance it brings to conversation around tackling unemployment and the wealth in there. Now, Ghana has developed double taxation treaties with countries such as the United Kingdom, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, among others, for the relief from double taxation on income arising in Ghana. Taxpayers benefit from tax credit facilities under the double taxation treaty. You also need to know about the rent to own a 2, 3 or 4 bedroom house or beachfront villa in the New Accra city. Cities inhabitants rent to own at a price you can afford and at a pace you can pay. Visit www.newaccra.city for more details or call or WhatsApp 0555 530 300, 0577 911101 or 0557 054 635. The planned cities extension project shaping Ghana's urban future. This is the AM show. Don't go away yet. When we come back, you will have your say on all we've been discussing here on the show. So much for staying on the program, and Benjamin has joined me because it's time to hear your views. Hello, Benjamin. How are you
back.
doing? I like that you're keeping more than an arm's length.
Yeah,
due to
in these days
and,
of COVID and monkeypox and everything pox.
Go back to the distance and all the safety
we tired
protocols.
these boxes
from
chickenpox to cowpox to what's the other one? Now monkeypox. There are so many poxes. Like, why?
That's a big question. And that was the first question I posed to our guests. What is happening in our world? We thought we were getting out of the woods, relaxing a bit, breathing
like a
some
handover.
fresh air. Then
a button race.
And nature
COVID
says,
is like monkeypox.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The button.
Take over.
Yeah. And, just when we thought we were breathing in some fresh air, nature said, oh boy. So let's hear what you have to say. Earlier, Benjamin spoke to his guests on the issue of the powers our constitution gives the president. There have been concerns, they've been raised over time. People have called for a review of our constitution, but we are still where we are.
What do you think, though? Where would you be? Those who say, look, give the person a 2-year presidency. Maybe they can renew for another 2 years, or give them 6 years, 7 years straight, but only one term.
Okay, so one of your guests suggested a single long term, and studying our politics over the years, I think a single long term will help us. Let me tell you why. Because yes, even though we've had parties do 8 years apiece, we've seen over time that usually uncompleted projects are not completed.
And that's a very valid point.
By governments that take over. So why not give them enough time to do something tangible Okay, so that when they're leaving, we know that at least we've completed this, we've completed that. Look at the issue with the e-blocks, you know, and there were concerns, people raised concerns, some people were bashed and all that. But also the question then is also that if you give somebody a long term and you have bad governance,
yeah.
you have to endure
So that's the other side of it.
Too long. But there are also provisions for impeachment and other things, and I think when we consider
impeach
well,
forget it.
Let's hear what you have to say.
Right.
And, you can.
Okay, so let's check out what you have to say on these two matters. Monkeypox in Ghana, 5 cases. Where do we go from there? And there's also the bit about our 1992 constitution, an overpowerful executive. You can actually call us on 0302 211 693 extension 2. Okay, so let's do this. The number I am seeing now, so you can maybe, or is that the Zoom connection? All right. So we have a caller from Teshi.
Yeah.
Benjamin is on the line. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, Ben. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're calling from Seshi, is it?
Yes, I'm calling from Seshi.
All right. Ben, what are your thoughts for us this morning?
Yes, my say this morning is that, first of all, like your lady saying that we should give politicians enough time that they can do something. The truth is that give them 20 years, they will still have, there will be still projects that will not be completed by other government because they are coming from a different party. That is the problem. Politics in Ghana here and in Africa is a foreign thing. And so it's about time that we have to look within ourselves as Africans, what is best for us. You see, there's a saying that when people misplace their heritage or, you know, their customs and their cultures are not respected, the people are lost. We should go by how were we governing ourselves as Africans? There were chiefs there. And how were the chiefs leading us? We were better off. So it's about time we have to look at this democracy very well and try and make it in a way that will suit us as Africans and as Ghanaians in particular. And we forget about this foreign movement and foreign, things that we are imposing on us. That is destroying our society and our system and our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin, for sharing your thoughts. And that is the number you can call at the bottom of your screen, 0556 614 049. Call and share your thoughts with us. So he's very passionate about it. And he says, Charlie, in this instance, like you rightly said.
And he's not the first person to suggest that we should localize our democracy. We should create a democracy that works for us based on our history, based on what we've practiced over time. And there are those who even say that, okay, so currently we have chiefs and we have MPs and we have DCEs. Aren't we,
it's like a
duplicating?
You're right.
Exactly.
Duty.
So I get him when he says, look, this is something we have employed or we have adapted from people who are used to that structure.
Right.
So let's find something that suits us. I don't know what you think, but we have Emmanuel joining us from Inyinim. Hello, Emmanuel. Do share your thoughts with us.
Hello. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I think Ghana's constitution should be relooked at. Hello, good morning.
Emmanuel, please listen to me over the phone. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, I think Ghana's constitution should be relooked again. If you look at the constitution, there are a lot of parts where the executive. I think Ghana's constitution should be relooked again. If you look at the constitution, there's a lot of power given to the executive, and we should all sit down and relook the constitution again and reframe it again, so that it can help the people in the country. I think the constitution helps the executive more than the people who vote for the parties. So, and if we give the politicians 20, 30 years, there are a lot of projects which they will never complete because everybody thinks he wants to do a new project. And if you want to do a new project, how can you complete the existing ones? So we should restructure our constitution again and get a plan where the country wants to go for the next 20, 30 years. And I think that one will help us. Giving the politicians 20, 30 years and then they don't have a plan, they just jump into something and it will not help us. So that is my thought.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, joining us from Enyinim. We will be receiving more calls. Hopefully we can take about 2 or 3. Please, when you call us, listen to us over the telephone. When you listen on your television set, there will be a delay and it will affect your submission. You can also go straight to the point and we'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Benjamin.
Oh yeah, so there we have it. People talking about monkeypox. I just pray that we're able to curtail this very quickly.
Yes.
So that we don't have something a la COVID-19 on our hands.
But
because that could mean
we've
going
heard
back
from the experts, and they say that this is not as contagious as
no,
COVID,
it isn't.
Thankfully, and you need to be symptomatic to transmit the disease. And so, if you see anybody showing any of the signs, fever, headache, then you stay away. The dangerous thing about COVID is the asymptomatic transmissions, because you can really not tell. People look totally fine, but they're passing on a disease to you that you aren't aware of.
And it appears with monkeypox as well, the fatality rate is not as bad as we envisage with COVID. Let's go over the phone lines once more. We have Samuel from Prestia. Hello, Sam. Ooh, it appears we lost Samuel. Do we have Samuel on the line? It appears we missed him. I was going to ask how Prestia was doing, mining, another mining community. I was just going to find out from him how they are faring. We may have time to sneak in maybe one more call, and we can take it from there.
Okay. Thankfully, we've got Felix. He's joining us from New Ningo. Hello, Felix. Let's hear you.
Okay. I have a say on our Ghana politics that is governing the nation now.
Please go ahead.
And the problem we have in our politics is many of us identify ourselves with the political party. You understand? So it is very, very difficult when you are NDC and NPP is in power to work with. So I want us to discard that identity, that even though when a government is not performing, you have no say, you have to do everything possible to let it seem like the government is performing. So few people in Ghana, to my perspective, to enter into politics. So we, the masses, will determine who should come to power. But now you realize that the whole nation is being divided, NDC, NPP. And you identify yourself with that party. So, in as much as that party is failing, you can't say anything about it because it's your identity, right? So I want Ghanaians to know that politics is not about identity.
All right, Felix.
It's about governance.
Thank you very much.
If the government is not working right, we need to say and let the governance, we keep the government away and let another person come in.
Thank you so much, Felix, our last caller. So if I get him, it's as though we place our political party identity above our Ghanaian identity. If I get what he was really trying to say.
He was also saying something about, I don't know whether to do with the political parties, but have a few people in politics and all of that. But our constitution itself talks about political parties and, what processes follow. So I don't know how that would pan out, but hey, it's a conversation we could have.
Yes. And unfortunately, our time is up. We have to leave. But before we go, today is Anita Sam's birthday. Anita, happy birthday to you. We've got much love for you. Anita is the wife of our very able producer, Derek Sam. And we are happy with you as you turn.
We celebrate with her.
Yeah,
we celebrate with her
30 today. So have a very happy birthday, and you receive our gifts. Don't worry, Benjamin.
What are we presenting again?
It's a special gift. You're not supposed to let it out, yeah?
Right. So very happy birthday to you, Anita.
Yeah.
You know she's like our mama AM show, you know, because
co-producer.
Co-producer.
Yeah.
Internal producer.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. And you know we wish you the very best of everything. Why? It's our producer and only super. We are cool with you. Happy birthday.
All right. Thank you so much for your company today. We are really glad to wake up every morning to serve you and shape your morning.
Shape your morning. Shape your day.
Yeah.
On that note, we say bye-bye to you, but Joy News Desk is up next. Joy News today, following at noon.